Our guest today is like the love child of Nikola Tesla and Salvador Dali. He gets the science of vibration and is addicted to creative art, and he doesn't let a moment go to waste. Clear your schedule, pay attention. This episode is going to blow our minds. Hello, you creative geniuses, and welcome to the best episode yet of Art on Fire. This is a connective podcast made and created by you, for you, through Patreon. This podcast is a little bit like a Joe Rogan or a Tim Ferriss, except I interview a lot of people who are artists, who participate in things like Blazing Swan, Burning Man, Original Burners, run festivals, produce events. I kind of focus in on that, and a little bit like the Tim Ferriss style, I also try and understand how they manage to get the things they do done and why they're doing the things that they do in the first place. This show is kept unadulterated because it's run through Patreon. That means I get to work for you, whoever you are that's listening, whoever you are that's tuning in. Write to me. You can be my boss. Write to me, ask me questions, join in on Patreon, and support this content here. You're my ultimate customer. I don't sell this show to sponsors, and I'm not looking for third-party money. I'm just working directly on creating content that you love and I love. So thank you for your support on Patreon. Check it out there. It's a really clever way to produce content like this without having to sell out in the big world. Speaking of being clever, my guest today is as clever as it gets. David J. Cryer is so far out there that for now I just want you to imagine a real life Rick from Rick and Morty. Because you name it and he can build it 10 times wilder than you can even imagine it. Because he doesn't just build, he is an artist and a creative. So the attention to detail and the blurring of the lines between function and design are seamless. Get ready, he's got a lot on his mind to teach us. Let me first begin by listing off some of the big things he has created. An award-winning nitrous-fueled HQ Monaro muscle car with chrome and hot pink engine. Check. A cyclotron, which is a device that produces radioactive isotopes used to diagnose and treat cancer. Check. A custom electrical bicycle cruiser with wheels that are made of spokes with shoes fixed to the ends of them and a frame that doubles up as a potato cannon. Check. A DJ booth in a chariot towed by 2 custom-built remote-controlled mechanical horses that poop Mars bars on command and weigh 1,400 kilograms. Check. And that's just the big stuff. He has also created small-scale wind turbines, climatic Clandy plates, models of platonic solids including the newly discovered Octahedron, and infinite holograms. I'm guessing you probably don't know what some of those words are, and that's okay. If you haven't heard of them before this episode, head out to artonfirepodcast.com to find the show notes for this show. Look for David J. Cryer, and you'll find handy links to everything that we talk about there. It'll be really great to check out those links as well, because you'll be able to put some imagery in to this conversation, even though I'm going to do my absolute best to articulate all the little details that make his works so phenomenal. I could go on and on and on, but at this stage I've got enough of my own voice and I can't wait to get started. But before we get started, we're going to have to warm up. We're going to need the Genius Ignition system for this episode. We need it for every episode. If you don't know what the Genius Ignition system is, it's a process that I'm going to teach you now, and we're going to do it together. That will help us take away something huge from this show. A great moment of insight, a wonderful little thought bubble, and it's really simple and it works 100% of the time. Believe it or not, it works. All it needs is your active participation. We're going to begin by rubbing our hands together. I mean you, wherever you are, rub those hands together. Get them rubbing. Get them hot. We got to get hot for this episode. Get in there. Put in some intention to learn something huge from this show, to take away a phenomenal new idea. In a moment's time, I'm going to do a countdown. We're going to do a simultaneous clap and make a declaration. 3, 2, 1.
I've touched a genius.
I've touched a genius. You're the genius. We've made the declaration. Now, let's get on with the show.
G'day, Dave.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you so much for coming down.
Yes, well, you got me out and doing this. I've been asked a few times. It's my first time on a podcast, so a little bit nervous, but I'm sure we can do all right.
That's all right. We're gonna have a bit of fun in here. We are on episode 7 in room number 7. It's coming on 7 o'clock soon. We might catch that moment in time when it happens.
Gee, you like 7s, do you?
Yeah. I have a feeling there's something about 7s in the room.
Yeah, so I've got some stories about that, but as we lead into it, we'll talk more about it, I think.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to dive into a 7 story? You got your 7 signature design necklace on at the moment.
My gift for the world. Designed this thing called, I had a question mark and an exclamation mark, then I drew a 7 with a line through it.
Yep.
And I designed this thing that I call the perfection mark. It's basically no greater than and less than in mathematics, which I believe that's where we sit in the middle. I call it it, or part of it.
Is that a yin and yang in the middle as well?
Yin and yang join. And
so you got the greater than and less than sign, the yin and yang, and the 7.
And it's got 7 points to it as well. It's sort of like when I spent about a year designing it, and then so that popped out. I thought, it wasn't my design. It felt like it was always meant to be here.
Yeah.
So I got it made in 316 stainless and blue, because blue is everyone's favourite colour. They're lying if it's not. And 316 stainless lasts forever, and so it's a great gift because I think it's all about gifting. So it's one of those nice things to have.
Yeah.
Gift away.
Yeah. So to lean back in on that previous thing. So I'm guessing this is a bit for a lot of your creation. You said it's like it was always meant to be here. So what does it feel like? Like what does it feel like when your ideas come to you? Like how are you tuning into these things?
Well, I'm lucky that I've got a lot of hand skills and a lot of, I can basically got to a stage in my life that I can sort of make anything that comes into my mind. So it's welding, design and fabrication. I can do, drafting as well. So, got 3D printing. So with the creative mind and a reason of do it because I can and why not, I tend to do that. So if I have an idea, I have to make that idea and I have to make it really quick so I can see it and other people can see it.
Yep.
And it'd be quite complicated, but I'm sort of obsessed in the process of that.
Yep.
And that's why Blazing Swan is quite good because it gives you a deadline.
Yeah.
And I believe, I've got a saying that deadlines get things done.
Yep.
And, if you work so hard on a project and if you don't finish it, you don't get to show it off, you don't get to enjoy it. So, but my limitations is, everyone says, Dave, just stop there. But no, I've got a vision in my head and it's got to be there. And that sort of can drive people mad. Yeah, try to help me around me.
Yeah, I chatted with quite a few of your mates in the lead up to this show to get some backstories, and all of them shared the same idea that when you get an idea, you go like 10 times bigger than anyone else could imagine, and that can be a bit hard for some people to sometimes work with. But then at the same time, they loved it. Like they were like, he just kept going bigger and bigger and more.
Well, the good thing is they get to see it quickly too, because I like to do it quick. The hardest thing is maintaining my things, because things break down. And electronics is one of my weaker sort of subjects, so it's quite hard because electronics with Arduinos these days, you can bit of coding, you can do a fair bit. So
yeah,
but I never knew really why I did all this, but now I fully understand what existence is about. It's about art and creation, and that's how we progress as a race.
Yep.
I believe,
And Blazing Swan's been a huge opportunity for you to play. Today is the 11th of April. If it was going to plan, Blazing Swan 2022 would be starting in 2 days' time. Were you planning on attending this year?
No, I was sort of pretty well retired a bit from Blaze, because political things have been happening, and I've sort of, I want to say, I burnt myself out. I've put a lot of effort into
just going to have a year
Blazing
off.
Swan, and
yeah,
so I'm never going to say never again.
Yep.
But I've quite enjoyed not the stress of, basically I'm working on the projects that I've built and get them running.
Yep.
There's quite a lot of complicated projects. They're all sitting in my house, so people come over and check them out. So
you
have a lifetime to get them finished, basically.
Yep. The playtime at Blazing Swan, I guess, did help accelerate the birth of that creative process for you, or at least that's...
Oh, definitely. Well, Blaze, when I heard about that, because I've been following Burning Man for a few years and seeing the crazy sort of creations, the walking machines and stuff, and I'm going, wow, that's just so up my alley, Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? So when someone came, it was Paul Robinson, geezer, came to my house in about, I think it was 2013.
Yep.
We basically just hit it off. And he says, you and I are going to get on. And we did. And we're like best of friends. I call him my mentor now. I really respect everything he has to say. Because I come out of a marriage for 8 years. It's quite an abusive sort of marriage with my wife. And she sort of left and became a full-time father. So I've done all this as a full-time dad as well. My daughter's 17 now, Gemma J.
Yep.
And I had her since she was about 7. So, a lot of people complain that they're single mums, this and that, but I'm doing this after working I worked 5 days a week as well, full-time. And then in my spare time, I'd build the stuff that I've built. But always with the goal of making it to Blazing Swan. Yep. So the more crazy stuff I can make, the better it is.
Yep.
So, I like... Well, Frank Mitchell was one who was the art director of Blazing Swan. He he's been a Burning Man. He just says he doesn't want to just make it like another festival or everyone sort of get messed up, have more creative, art pieces and that. So I sort of latched onto that side of it.
Yeah.
I partied as well.
Yeah. So you went to your first blaze with Paul, right?
First blaze, yes.
Yep. And so Paul was telling me the story where you were just about to head off together, and you said, "Oh, I prepared something to bring," and Paul had in his mind that maybe made a tray of sandwiches or some food or something like that to give to the community, and he rocked up at your house and you had created a giant version of that operation game, which is that, for everyone who's listening, it's that game where you have to, drag the body part through the little plastic toy that you bought, and then if you touch the sides, you lost the game because it made a noise. Dave created a huge one of that, and it was a couple of meters wide and meter and a bit tall and full of neons or something like that, and made all kinds of fart noises and other explosive noises.
Yeah, well, first blaze was coming up, and I had to do a few things, and I made a Clandy table and a few other pendulum wave, but I wanted to make something to spin people out, and also Paul.
Yep.
So I rocked up there, and I wasn't really. I didn't know anything about the blaze, and I was a bit worried because the game is big stainless steel front and Jarrah, and it says Blazing the Swan. They're the letters that you pull off, and it's got the swan emblem. You pull that out, but what I put it was, it's really difficult to get the digital sounds, convert into a Bose system, so it really cranked at you when you did it. Then a light system would flash to for 5 seconds that you've hit it. But I also added high voltage, so if someone wanted to get zapped, they can have the opportunity to get
play an
zapped,
electrified version of
nobody wanted to get zapped. So even I didn't want to do it, actually.
Yeah, turned it up a bit too much. It was a bit too much of a zap.
Yeah, so it was about a month before the blaze, and I thought, I'm going to make that machine. And I got right into it. It was a fair bit of work, and got it there. But it also was a nice advertising for Blazing Swan as well. Yeah. Set on a trestle. But
where is that at the moment? Is it your place?
Yeah, it's in my house.
Yeah, your place.
Stuff all lights up at the house. But we were set up on the other side of CUN/T, whatever.
Yeah, yep.
And it was sort of hidden at the back. It was quite funny because I had all my games. I didn't really know anyone. I was staying with Papazans that time, but I didn't know anyone in there either. But Frank Mitchell, being an art director, went for a cruise for a walk around like you do at Burning Man. And he probably thought he saw everything that was there. Walked around the corner, had the pendulum wave lit up, and Paul had his fuck light in the corner, similarly says the word. And Frank just spun out and goes, wow. So basically I got him. Yeah. And I didn't even know him. Yeah. So we were like good friends from then on. Yeah. So that was a Blazing Swan game. So.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a podcast. So, again, for anyone who's listening, outonfirepodcast.com, we're going to put up lots of links to the imagery for Dave's things, but we're going to do our best in this show to get saucy and creative with these things, tantalize the mind with our language in trying to describe the things that Dave has created. So, and the many experiments that he runs with. So, the operation game was the warm-up for the big project. The big project being the Horsome Chariot, which actually, just before getting to the Horsome Chariot, for anyone who hasn't gone to Blaze, so there is an idea of gifting and sharing and bringing things along to the festival, and it's a festival that's to a burn, not just Blaze, to a burn style festival. It's hard to really understand it, and if anyone hasn't been and they're thinking of going, I think my biggest thing is go, and it's not what you expect. You'll get there and you'll be surprised by it not being what it is. And like Dave, I also wanted to bring something, but I also had no idea what the festival was. So I thought I would do a Mad Hatter's Tea Party. It seemed kind of on point. And I did it. And just bringing that energy of wanting to do something is good enough, right? Like, don't be stressed about whether it's going to work or not, because you've got no idea, because your idea of the festival is probably incorrect because you've just seen too many hippie videos, right? Yeah. So for my example, I went and brought a tea party and I set it up in the wrong spot and didn't promote it well and didn't whatever, but the intention was there. And so it still was received by the people around there. And I felt like I had stuff to give. And that felt really great that I had something to give. And I can definitely execute that giving better now because I've actually understood that festival a bit more. But just for anyone who's listening, just having that intention to bring something and go easy on yourself, just go with whatever's good for you. For Dave, it's creating things. For me, it was hosting a tea party. It's, do actually whatever you like and just trust that that'll be beautiful. And then that'll open up doors in the festival, because when you're like living in alignment with the principles, it's so crazy because it becomes a religious spiritual festival. Not religious, but somehow when you're like in alignment with the principles, like the miracles just happen. Like you just literally do step into another reality where things can manifest in an instant and do manifest in an instant.
One of the things that I always tell people about the burns is that when they compare, I've been to a festival, been to a doof, that it's not, because everything else is based basically on money. Where this is the money goes into the actual event, and then when you go there, you cross a line. When you cross the line, there's no business cards, there's no money. Everyone's food, we can exchange, and that takes that.
Not even exchange.
Yeah, just that frequency that money does to people in the world, the control, and takes it out of it. So it's quite amazing how much you can forget about it when you cross over that line. So and I just love that part of it. That's one of my biggest.
It's really beautiful experiencing gifting and receiving, and being able to practice giving things, and being able to allow yourself to receive things as well.
That's the big one. It's one that I struggle with. Right? Receiving is something we need to learn. If someone gives you like a sock for Christmas, you've got to say thank you very much, and it builds that moment up. You can always give the sock to somebody else and they can do the same thing. As soon as you say, "Oh no, I didn't get you anything," you just ruined that that frequency of love. And I personally have to learn to live with that as well.
I think the giving and receiving practice at Blaze actually goes so deep, and actually goes even more, like in this analogy where you gave for Christmas. It can actually go to a point where you can, because you don't have to receive the things that people give you, because people can give you things that you don't want. And Blaze is a really great, or the burning events are a really great opportunity to practice actually also saying no to things that you don't want, because someone will come along and be like, "Do you want this?" And they'll offer it, and then you can be like, "No," and they won't take it personally. Like they'll be like,
"No." But there's ways of saying no as well. So
for sure,
no, I don't want that, or no, thank you very much. Like maybe someone else would appreciate that. It's interaction with people. It's everything really.
Anyway, that was a bit of a segue. We were just opening up the door to the Horsome Chariot. So my first experience with the Horsome Chariot was in 2019, and I stepped into your 10 frequency, and I stepped in there the first time and saw this thing, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what is this thing? Like, how did this get here? Who created this?
How did it get there?
What's going on? And I was just staring at this horse, and I was perplexed, because I could tell that it was like not just a plastic toy, it was something else. And this was when it was just standing there, it wasn't doing anything, but I could tell it wasn't just a plastic toy or just a hodgepodge thing. I was like, this is real. But then I left, and then I came back another time, and then I bumped into you that other time, and then you gave me the tour, and I just remember just like while you giving me the tour, and you were taking me from the horses to the chariot to the Clandy plates to the pendulums to the infinite mirrors on the front of the chariot to the DJ booth to the artwork that you printed, and going at 10 bazillion miles per hour as you do.
I can talk fast.
And the whole time that you're going at 10 bazillion miles per hour, my mind's just going like, how is any of this even like freaking possible?
That's what I like to blow people's minds like that, because everyone's been
blown. It's mind-blowing.
It's refreshing to do it.
It's really so mind-blowing. So tell us about the horse. Tell us what's the horse.
Well, the horses came from basically the year before I was done those art pieces, and now I'm locked in. This is my scene. So Paul Cale was the guy that we went to my first Blaze with. His electronics guy was a friend of mine. And we drove up, we walked around as Romans, had some metal helmets on, and we were roaming around.
Roaming around as Romans.
Yeah, it was our first Blaze.
Yep.
So then the next Blaze said, well, we had about 6 months off. He said, we should make a chariot. I was thinking, well, okay, we were probably thinking a four-wheel motorbike on the front and a little chariot. Then my mind started ticking away. I think, okay, now I've got a chance to do something that walks. So I started doing a few designs and things, looking what was around the world, because Burning Man was doing a few walking things, but most people have stopped now because it is very difficult to actually make things walk.
Yeah.
So I started through SolidWorks looking at all the different designs around there. So I designed this. My first design was I call it the Octahedron. It's basically it was an 8-legged 1934 Ford coupe. So it was going to be walking around a hot rod. Instead of a hot rod, Octahedron. It had 8 legs. So I got good animations on that. I can show people that.
Yep.
So I thought, well, that'd be great. I might make an Octahedron. But then it's only 2 people. it's not, it's a bit of a show. Believe it or not, I'm not really one to show off. I just like creating things and maybe watching people look at it. So I thought, no, horses. So then I started thinking about horses, the chariot. I thought, well, one horse walking with the legs mechanically, they would fall over. I didn't want to use servos. I didn't want to make it overcomplicated. I wanted to be quite clever on simplicity. Believe it or not, it was quite simple. So I started drawing. That was around only 6 months before the blaze. So I probably put about 300 or 400 hours into drawing. Went through all the different types of mechanisms. Found the Strand Beast by Theo Jansen is a Dutch guy who made those wings that go along the beach and walk. So he designed this unbelievable walking mechanism, which was not patented and it's free for the world. It's got a really good engineering factors to it where it pushes and pulls.
So he shared the designs?
Well, I just saw his design, right?
Yeah.
So then I looked around, there was other people, I just started...
Yep. Let's just paint that one because I just want to make sure it's the same one. So it's very large. I think they're wood.
Yes.
Wood walking things that are usually wind powered.
Wind powered,
and
right.
they just walk across a desert or something, and some of them have like 100 legs, something like that. There's just this like big walking machine that's got the wheel that spins.
I think he calls them Strand Beasts or something like that.
Yep, it's got a wheel that spins with a shaft on it, and that shaft makes all the legs walk in a beautiful sequence, and it just
but that mechanism is called the Theo Jansen mechanism, but it is what it is. It's got a walking cycle and it's quite stubby. But to fit onto a horse, I had to change that mechanism, which is, a big no. You just don't change the dynamics of that.
Theo Jansen was the name of the guy.
Theo Jansen, yeah.
Cool.
So I started playing around, 'cause my main thing was to get I didn't know much about horses. I looked at all the horses, what I thought was a good looking horse, got that onto the drawing board and traced around that horse. So from the side spot. So when you looked at it from the side, it looks like a horse. So that was my driving, what I was going to design. So then I put the walking mechanism on, and it didn't really work. Sort of like the legs looked really fat and looked like a donkey and that. So I had to just change it into legs that walk. So I was going to change the walking cycle, then over time work on making that walk, because I believe I can make anything happen. The main thing is make the structure, make it as strong as I can. But what I thought, well, one horse you'd have four horses, but two horses would be off the ground. So, because I was going to walk 180 degrees opposed when they walk, not just one horse. But with two horses, there's always going to be four horses on the ground. I thought, that's going to work. And that's all I need to know in my mind. I can make that work.
Because you can balance it.
There's no time to, it's just like a car with four wheels on the ground. So, so each a horse will be 180 degrees opposed. So, it's got stability. So then I started on the drawing board. I thought, well, I can join them together and I can find the central pivot point. Then I can work from that. So I made a little diff that joined them so the horses can go in potholes and they can go up and down, but they can never go in towards each other, like toe in, toe out. So there's it on the drawing board, bang, bang, bang. Frank Mitchell was trying to see if get the biggest grant that Blaze sort of given out was $5,000, which was a lot of money. There's a bit of controversy about letting that sort of money go. So he worked hard on the committee because Frank was one of the original founders of Blazing Swan. And managed to convince him to $5,000, but it didn't come in until like December. It was only literally 4 months then to build the horses, which is not very long when you consider the project. And I was working full time as well. So because the money came through, ordered the first batch of steel. I don't even want to tell you how much this horse has actually ended up costing. There's a lot more than that. Another zero onto that one. But it wasn't about the money. I tell everyone I blew my money on the horses. Another little funny story of the horses too. When everyone goes, "Oh, Dave, you look so thin. You look so." But what happened is I've looked up, because I got this thing about sevens. We'll talk through the night. Looked up my weight for my height. It was 77.7 kilograms. I was going, what? I'm usually about 84, so I used the horses to get my weight right down.
Weight right down.
And I went to work, took a photo of 77.7, went to the toilet, had a burger, and got it spot on there. So I got a photo of that, and then back up to 84.
Yeah, so you did actually get to this. What are you weighing right now? Have you looked?
Probably about 83.
83. Yeah.
So then the horses was being born. The medal arrived, and it was on. My carport. My daughter's going, "What are you doing, Daddy?" I said, "Deadlines, get things done. It'll only be another 3 months." Every night after work, I was working on quite a big project at work at the same time as well. But so just all got stuck into it. A lot of friends come through and help and get us over the finish line. And because it was, I can talk your head off about the horses anyway. So what do you want to know about?
I want to keep talking about them. I just want to paint them a little bit more for anyone who might be listening or who's still catching up. So they're
Well,
2 horses, they're pretty much life size.
Well, the horses, I had to look into horses. Horses weigh between 350 and 1,000 kilograms.
Yep.
So my weight I chose was about 550 kilograms. So I used like for the legs 25 mil plate, which had to machine all out. So knowing the weight, then I thought, well, the hoofs. So I start with hoofs, their footprint on the ground, and their weight.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's because if it were too light, they could probably scratch the ground. So I want a bit of a mass there. It's heavy stuff, heavy to move around. But horses are heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's got to pull the chariot with people on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the chariot was we can talk a lot about the chariot too, because I ended up 1 month before the blaze. I sat there thinking, I didn't want to put anyone else out. I was going to how am I going to get it there? Car trailers, trucks. And 1 month before the blaze, I said, I better design this chariot to license. So then I redesigned it the next night to license it. So that night I ordered private plates, Horsem 7, and they arrived like a few days before the blaze, and I ended up getting a license about a week before the blaze. I don't know how I got licensed. The guy was going, what the hell is this thing? That's before I put the infinity screens on the fronts. But
one thing at a time. Let's go back to the horses, and we'll get back to the chariot.
The horses.
So Dave essentially made 2 robot horses, and they're 2 robot horses that march in time with each other that he can remote control.
Well, yeah, there's a horse control I can do it. The whole process, like that year, it's never been done before, right? So, I don't think
I've seen robot horses before anywhere
it's
else.
never been done. So how do you do it? So I built some railings in my carpet so I can try walk them forward. But my main thing is I can always add horsepower to it, which I'm increasing the horsepower now.
Mm-hmm.
You get that?
Yep.
Adding horsepower. I'm the only one that can say that.
Yeah, your horses have got each one has significantly more than 1 horsepower per horse.
Yeah, well, I had them about. My challenge was, I haven't got a lot of money, so I used worked at the hospital and use these wheelchair motors. So I'm trying to use wheelchair motors to move all that monstrosity, which is an engineering feat within myself if I can do it. Because I can always put a V8 in there, or I'm thinking about running them on air motors actually, but I can run them on anything. But at the moment, on those motors, and I've actually walked them in the distance of 3 meters in my carport.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm adding more horsepower, putting a belt drive, increasing horsepower to it, just to get these motors working. Because they're running on electronics, and electronics can cut out on the boards. And but there's many other options. If this doesn't work, I'm probably going to run it on air. I can run it on V8s if I want to. I've got the strength there. The strength is there, and I've seen them walk. They've walked. Now over time, people show me interest.
Yep.
I will do it, because I don't like going back on my projects. I suffer with that because I've built so much other stuff since then.
Yeah. Yep.
But the horses, yeah. Well, they like I said, I built robotic tails for them. They actually like with real horsehair, so they remote control, and then you press a button, they poo Mars bars at the back. Yeah, and that's quite funny because everyone goes, "Hey, they poo Mars bars." I knew that would be the biggest thing people would go for, and it was the easiest thing to make. Just got a little tube and put an aerial in there and indexed it.
That's what I love so much about hearing when I learnt about your art, how much ridiculous attention to detail you put in just the funny things. Because the idea of building a mechanical horse or robot horse is hardcore, right? Like just building a robot horse is hardcore. But then building a robot horse and then being like, it should also have real horsehair tail and a real horsehair mane. That's pretty fucking cool. And it should also have, I think it's got a unicorn horn.
A retractable billet unicorn horn.
Cool. So it's got a unicorn horn that pops out, and it's got ears that
robotic ears, robotic mouths, and stainless steel fabricated heads on them.
Yeah, and poops Mars bars, but like all of that is just like so much like extra. Right, like you could have just stopped at a robotic horse, and it would have been still fucking mind blowing. That was a robotic horse, but then and with the way that you are with so many of projects, and I'm just kind of like cueing people in to listen out for this. Is just like you keep going like, well, what else can I do with it? Like, how could I make this even cooler, or even better, or even dumber, or even I don't even know what the correct word is there. But you're just like 10xing it at every opportunity to just do more. Because even the sides of your horses are covered in something that you
fractal
made.
Mathematic plates.
So we can talk about that as well. But yeah, just leaning in on that. The idea that you have really put into yourself, where your mind is always looking for, well, what else? How can I go bigger? What can I do more? How can I 10x this? How can I I don't know if I don't know if those are the questions that are in your head, but that's the observation from my side, and that's also what all of your friends say about you as well. It's just like Dave just turns it up. He just turns it up to a whole nother level. So
I spent many years working at a place called Orbital Engine Company, Ralph Sarich, and they basically invented an engine. I spent my training from there. So about 13 years there. So we'd have the Americans come over and all people around the world, and they'd come in and they'd go, "You Aussies, you do this?" And we did so much cool stuff, right? I fuel injected first jet skis. I could talk your head off about those days. But that just seeing that and them thinking that, you Aussies can't do nothing, and me seeing the Americans do all their big stuff, I think, well, I want to put Blazing Swan on the map too, because, we can do some stuff. So that was one of the ideas that we're serious over here as well. And anyone who can see this project and have got an idea, then there's no excuses. Go do it, because it's not going to be hard as building those horses. So anyone can achieve anything if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't perceive myself to be better than anyone else, but I've got Google, I've got YouTube, I've got hand skills, but people can learn them as well. I think that was my main goal, was to make something serious, set the mark, for other people to create stuff, and just make it so it's just not another big festival where everyone gets messed up.
Yeah. Segue question. I want to come back to the horses still, but if you were to happen to walk out of the door of this studio and someone was to give you $10 million to just go and create whatever the fuck you wanted to create with it, what would you dive into first?
It's one of probably I'd say one of my dreams is to just not worry about money.
Yeah. So someone's on the other side of the door gives you $10 million. What are you going to make?
First, I'll say to them, what do you want that's not based on money? If they might have, I mentioned before that, if I could, anyone has an idea, I'm probably one of those people that can make that idea happen.
Mm-hmm.
Most people say, Dave, I've got this idea, and can I say, yes, I can make it. What is it? I don't even know what it is. I've got myself in trouble with that.
Yep.
So $10 million would let me free to make. So if you had an idea, I can make that.
Mm-hmm.
Not have to worry about materials. Not have to worry about my hours.
Yeah. Yep.
But
that's the point of the question. Is it sort of frees up that resource and just removes that as the point of the question. So
I've got plenty of. I am getting a bit older as well. So my drive. I'm not sure about my drive. Not probably as much as it was probably 10 years ago. But I believe I'm doing a lot of stuff with vibration, cymatics, and I think that plays a big part of our existence. So I've got some ideas along what I think maybe help humanity through using vibration. So that could take a bit of time and a bit of money to make those things. So I've got, I don't want too much about it here, but I've just got some new ideas that I want to.
Can't say too much about it because you're currently holding the ideas.
Holding this particular idea with I think Paul and Geezer and I want to go into business with each other. Maybe build like a vibration wellness centre. One of the particular ideas that I think were attracted, I just want to maybe not mention too much about it at the moment, but I think it'll be good for humanity. So I've got, I can just imagine a wellness centre based on
vibrations.
But also Blazing Swan, imagine a cool place with music, imagine a cool place that you can just go to and hang out, a centre.
Yep. So when we're talking vibes, and wellness centers. Most of the people who say and talk about vibes are quite, let's say, hippy dippy on the spiritual end.
Yeah.
I perceive of you that you're actually on both ends at the same time. I feel like you've gone to the hippy dippy end and you understand what the hippies are saying when they probably don't themselves. Some of them probably do. Some of the really spiritual yogis who are hanging out in temples probably do. The rest of the people are talking about vibes with some level of understanding. I feel like you've gone really deep in the hippie end, but you've actually also gone really deep in the physics end, and you actually also get the physics of vibrations. Yeah. And you've built countless models and experiments and things around your house to show vibes to people, including the Clandy plates and other things that you do with water and lights and fun things. So what can you teach me about vibration and wellness?
Yeah, well, Seven sent me on a journey, and basically I didn't know what I was going to do in the beginning, but I just went along with it. And Seven, I class it as it's a key to existence, and it's very much mathematics and the spiritual world and that. So I've come to terms that I'm doing things that imagine we're all one, and I call it part of it, male, female. We just call it it, not source or God. We're part of it. It's like because I've got these hand skills, I think it might be using me to bring these things out, because I'm wondering why I go so deep into it as well. Now I look back and I don't think coincidences aren't coincidences. Everything's for a particular reason. So I started off, making Clandy tables, vibrating plates, and I thought that would be really cool. Took my first blaze. But along the lines of doing that vibrational plate, which I just went through perfecting it until now I've got it into a self-contained unit that self-feeds itself because they're quite noisy and it upset DJs and stuff. So I put double glazed plates, built my own computer to drive it all. A lot of work into these things. So I learned a lot from that.
Just quickly, can you tell anyone who's listening what a Clandy plate is?
It's called a Clodney as produced, or how I say it. It could be, it's Ernst Clodney. He was a guy, I think it was in the 1700s, who made violins and worked out where he put sand and then run the boat on the side, it would form patterns. So he could shape the woods and the thicknesses and that, so he got a cymatic pattern that was, harmony with the board. So as time went on and we get to where we are now, we've got so many tools at my hands, so I've got oscillation systems, I've got computers, so now I can really go in and perfect that process. I built a pretty good table, and so I have probably 5 different designs, but the latest one I've got is pretty good. I get some amazing patterns to a point where they were making such awesome patterns. I thought, these are amazing art pieces. We need to turn this into art. Mm-hmm. Spent 2 years developing a process where I can actually make the metal plates mount on the wall with the vibrational pattern on them.
Yep.
And most people will walk up and got no idea. They think it's a print, or they think, but no, I've actually got the plate. And if you know the process, it's quite hard. You've got to pre-roll the plate in the opposite to where it will bend down and sit flat, because if you had a bit of sand rolling on it at an angle, it'll go off the plate.
Right, I got to stop you just for a second.
Talking fast.
Yeah. No, the speed's good. I just want to go right back to Clandy.
Clandy tail?
The Clandy plate, or the just for people who may still be trying to picture what one is. Probably the most likely place you would have seen something like this is on YouTube, where there's a video of people throwing sand onto a board, and then they just turn the board to vibrate at different frequencies, and the sand makes different shapes on the board. So Dave has built those and is able to set them to a whole bunch of different frequencies to do a whole bunch of things, and then now is also able to. Now we can lean back into what you were talking about. You're able to somehow capture that image of what that frequency looks like on the plate itself.
So when it forms a pattern, wow, that's an amazing pattern. So instead of taking a photograph of it, I actually make the metal plates. I pre-roll them, prep them all. You've got to sand them down, and you've got to rub them to get the friction down. I built a separate room that's noise-proof, where I can actually set the vibration I need. I've mapped all the different frequencies. It's quite difficult to do. I made suction devices to suck the bits of sand away that get in the way, to a point where I get the pattern that I need, where I can mix different colours of sand and add a bit of art to it as well. But I don't class myself as the artist. The artist is creation itself. So
you're just capturing it.
Yeah, well, I do. So I do. So I've added colours to it. That's maybe a bit of me, but the vibrations, they exist. Same with the water cymatics that we'll talk about later. They exist. Same with the hedrons I make. I do a lot of bringing stuff to you that's already here, but in a nice way. But the Clandy table, it's amazing. Actually, I kept working on it. I think it's not good enough, because most people use speakers now. I use a different type of system, built my own vibrational system, and the plate. I wanted a large plate, but large plates, bows. I had to go through all different types of materials. I went through, you name it, till I found the best material, and kept a bit of a secret. And then I had to level it all, and the back corner, the sand wasn't in that pattern, so I had to pre-roll it, and just so many different plates until I got one that was leveled, works great. And because using graphite powders and the right type of aggregate, all the YouTube videos that you see out there, they tend to have patterns on them, general patterns that you'll see. But because I've refined it, I get the frequencies in between the frequencies, so some amazing patterns that you don't see elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But the refinement of that just took so long. So I had to make them as art pieces. So I have made them as art pieces. I've got them at home, sit on my wall. I donated one to a good cause, but I've never really sold them. Not really even know what price to ever put on them. But I've perfected that process, and I'm quite happy with the outcome. It's part of my tour. When you come to my house, you get to see the Clandy table and all the plates. Yeah, but I've moved on now to water cymatics vibration. Mm-hmm. When I first doing Clandy tables, there's me getting to vibration now, realising now vibration is a big part of our existence, frequency. The water stuff I've sort of saw it on here and there, but I didn't understand it. Like most people, it just looks like a computer generated image. Until I started vibrating.
So for people who haven't seen these are images that if you had seen one somewhere, you probably just wouldn't have a fucking clue what it was, because I've seen some of Dave's images of this, and it's this beautiful thing that has pattern to it and has shape to it.
That's one of the images there.
Dave's just showing off his T-shirt with an image
that's my water somatic image.
A water somatic image.
That's my fractal images. I make my own clothes as well, not for sale, but for myself.
Yeah, you look good. You got it. Yeah. Cool. So it's an image that you're gonna have to Google it, but it essentially just looks like I don't know. It looks like something from space. It looks like something that you see in like a space image. It's got a whole bunch of color and a bunch of lines and a lot of symmetry and a lot of shape, and it's actually just a water droplet vibrating. I've
done droplets. I've done a lot of the vibrations, but it's basically 50 millimeter bowl of water. Moment I've got a 70 mil bowl, just around up to 100. You can go bigger if you want, but generally around the 50 mil is quite good. And you put about 10 mil of water in it, maybe a bit of dye to make it black. So you just got liquid water.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to make a light ring that sits very at the top of it. Everything's got to be leveled and lined up. So then you got a light ring at the top, which I've made one that's got UV light, a whole light spectrum in it. I can switch between addressable lights. So that's the light. So basically it's light refracting off water. So then when you put a camera in the middle of that and you've got to line all that, everything has to be lined up. Once it's lined up, then you put a mixing desk and a frequency driver through it. So it's pure signal frequencies. Then you when you put the frequency through it, then it's a mixing desk. So you won't just start mucking around with the mixing desk and the levels. It tunes in, but it's quite difficult. There's only one spot where it happens, otherwise it gets splashed out. So it takes a while to drive it. I've got these head-mounted displays, and once you get that spot, it's like you're seeing nothing else. The videos I'm taking now, because now I've worked out that I can match the frequency with my shutter speed. So then it freezes and I can move it around like that. And I'm just blown away by what I'm seeing. So yeah, I've put them on some clothes. I'm thinking about putting on just basic clothes, but then that's difficult within itself, trying to get materials, and that's a future project.
It's a different project, yeah.
I bought my own through the internet and paid money for that, but done on my bedspreads and onesies and stuff like that. It's good for Blazing Swan.
Mm-hmm.
But what else do you do? You got so much cool imagery. What do you do with it? So,
turn it into your own clothing.
I'm in the process now of like the David Cryer coin on Big Clout and maybe looking at NFTs. Everyone says I should be doing that. So that's another, I don't know about that or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, from that, you mentioned a water drop. I got down to vibrating just a drop of water. So what's a drop of water? It's about one or 2 millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get water, you got to have because it's curved. Water
will sit in a teardrop shape or in a droplet shape.
When you look at a drop, it captures all the light around it. So you get some amazing imagery. So you use microscopic cameras on that. And the stuff that I was seeing with that was amazing, because the water drop would form shapes as well, hadronic shapes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have it would produce a vibration inside it. Then also if you had like dust particles, they would produce like vortexes on the outside. And it got to the point I've actually designed this desktop one shaped like a water drop. I've drawn it all up and I was going to build that for the world, but I moved on to another project. So I've got all these projects sitting, ready to go.
One at a time.
Yeah. That's all right.
So you've got on the not the droplet version, but on the droplet version as well. But you're essentially taking water, putting a vibration through it, shining some colors on it, and then taking pictures at certain moments in time, and it is producing real life art.
That's not zeros and ones. It's basically its frequency. And when you look at our existence using light, using vibration and refraction of the light, and the water really has no boundaries in that. So with the sand, you've got frictions and you've got certain patterns that will form. But the stuff you get from this is generally the lower frequencies. You're talking anywhere, say, from 3 hertz to about 30, 40 hertz. And you go the smaller side, with the drops, you can go up to like 1,000 hertz. But generally, we work around 20 hertz, around that sort of frequency. But it's starting to get a bit bigger. I'm quite in contact with a lot of people around the world that are doing it. It's getting bigger and bigger. So more mainstream. But
what were you wanting to say about when looking at our existence and looking at vibration? Like what are you coming to realize there?
Well, Matt, there's nothing solid. This desk is not solid. Everything's a frequency. Then if you look at it like that, it makes more sense that I am you, you are me. This is a manifested thought process. The book of the Kybellion, the 7 hermetic principles, was a big one for me. And the first thing it says, the universe is mental. So if you work on that theory, the universe is mental, well, the principles is basically this: is you everything's a thought pattern from a single consciousness that goes into mathematics. I say then the Fibonacci sequence, then you've got the golden ratio, then you got fractals, then you got frequency. So frequency's in there to produce us.
Go from the top again. Let's go right from that book. What is that book?
It's a book. It's called the Book of the Kybellion.
And is that a spiritual text? Is that a scientist text? Is this
goes
old,
back to
new?
the Egyptians.
Egyptians. Okay, so it's an ancient text.
Ancient text. It was written by 3 people in the 1900s, but don't give their names. But basically, if you read it,
3 people who don't give their names.
No.
Yep.
And so it's ancient knowledge that's passed down.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the 7 hermetic principles, I'll try and remember them. There's mentalism, which basically works on mathematics. Then you've got correspondence, you've got frequency, you've got gender and polarity. So if you look at those 7 principles, it fits into our existence. So that's one thing that I sort of fitted into what I was doing and what I was thinking, because I do a lot with mathematics, with fractal mathematics, the Mandelbrot. So as I said, I do these things and I realise, and as I go on, wow. So spiritualism, I was never really into it. When Giza first came to my house in 2013, he goes, Dave, do you believe in reincarnation? Because he knew that was a big question. And I never say no. I didn't say no. I don't believe in saying no. I just said, I choose not to go down that path. I'm a creator. Just want to keep making things. I've got about 100 years here. And most religions believe there's an afterlife and there's a better life after this. I want to make the most out of this one. So I said, not really going to go say no. But he kept saying it next year. About Blazing Swan, God said no on the thing. He says, Dave, reincarnation? Nah. Dave, next year? Nah. And it was about the 4th year. I said, shook his hand. It was New Year's Eve. I pushed off. I said, I believe in reincarnation. Wow. My life just took off then. So I started looking into our existence, and
oh my gosh! So you said it, and then that changed the way that you looked at the world.
Everything, because I believe that there's like little gateways in that. Once you have to have an understanding of the truth, and when you do, you get rewarded, and it opens the next door up.
Yeah, so this is what I'd love to lean into, and I'd love to learn from you more in this conversation, and to be able to share in this conversation. Is again, just to backtrack, it's like I feel you've done some really big work in this space, because you've got a very mathematical, engineering, scientific mind. But now you're telling me about this ancient Egyptian text, and then you talked about the 7 principles, and then you said a whole bunch of words about the evolution from something, from the Clandy text to vibration. I'd love to see which parts of those we could make some correlation with, to the point that anybody who has an understanding of something vibrating, so a ripple of water vibrating, which we've all seen when the wind blows over water, or when you drop something in a lake and you can see vibration patterns, so we all know what they are. To backtrack from that to the origin of consciousness, or the connection.
I do jump around. Yeah. I'm sorry about this. It's first time on the podcast.
From the manifestation of what the fuck are we all doing here? How did we all get to this planet? What is life? The meaning of life, as understood through the study and observation of vibration.
Everything vibrates. Nothing's at rest. Matter is only perceived in our perceptive world, so perspective. Look, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I can talk about this forever, but I want to go
too
deep into it all. But I've opened up a lot of doors. I think there's different vibrations and frequencies that we actually sit on mentally as well. And this is why sometimes you walk around and go, what are they doing? Can't they see what's going on? Or go, what's going on at the moment? It's one of those things that's happening politically around the world. There seems to be other people sitting on different vibrations. Don't know how much that is. I just believe that we're all vibrations, and we are all one. And how you want to perceive that is it's pretty hard to put into words. I don't know what else to say from that, because I can talk for hours on the subject, but I don't.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the string of things that you said between the source of consciousness or consciousness to vibration, because you said there was consciousness, then there was something, there was fractals, and there was something else, and then there was vibration.
Yeah, well, that's
what are those things?
Because I think we constructed from a single consciousness and using mathematics and the Fibonacci sequence, which just spirals out from 0, 1 plus a number behind it. I don't know if people are aware of that, but that turns into the golden ratio. Now, the golden ratio, 1.61, is in all of us. It's in our eyes. It's in the universe. It's a signature on us, which is something we're not taught at school.
Yeah, let's unpack both of those because I know a little bit of them. So I'll just say what I know, and then you can do it. So Fibonacci sequences is just a mathematical sequence where you start with 0, and then the next number is 1, and then you add those two numbers together, and you get 1, and then you always add the previous two numbers together. So just add 1 and 1.
Just the one behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, just you add the answer with the previous number. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus.
That's it.
Yeah, and it goes on and on. So it's just a pattern that's a guy named Fibonacci has noticed, and he named it the Fibonacci sequence. And lots of observers of the physical universe observe that there is actually this pattern occurring in all kinds of things.
Yeah,
it just occurs naturally everywhere.
But it turns into the golden ratio, and the golden
which
ratio, which is I like to say, like, imagine a rectangle. And it's 5 mil by 3 mil, 3 divided by 5. So just a rectangle.
Yep.
That ratio there, 1.612, is everywhere. Now that's got some sort of meaning behind that. So I like to incorporate that when I talk about that we're made from mathematics, from a single consciousness. So then with that sequence, you run into fractal mathematics or fractal infinite patterns. And that's where it leads me on to one of my latest work is the Mandelbrot, which is a three-dimensional fractal discovered in 2009. And it was a holy grail of mathematics, basically, to find out if the Mandelbrot set, which was discovered in the 70s, which is the standard fractal Mandelbrot, it's a two-dimensional world where you zoom in on the edge and it looks like...
Too fast. I'm going to pause again. I want to come back to Mandelbrot and Mandelbrot. No. I want to come right back into that right now. I just want to go one step back. So you've got the golden ratio, and then you've got fractals. Can you define fractal mathematics for me before we go into the Mandelbrot and the words there as well?
Yeah, just before look, guys, I'm not a mathematician. I just like things and I look into them like anyone else can. It just so happens that a friend of mine, knows my mind. He said, Dave, you got to look at this. And he put this Mandelbrot 3D program on my computer. And I was trying to learn coding. Trying to learn everything. It's really difficult. I hadn't got time for that, but I gave it a chance. Oh, I'm so glad I did. That's why I got this on my clothes now as fractal mathematics. So this fractal mathematics in their world was looking for if it ever was going to perform in a three-dimensional shape. But how can that happen when fractals are infinite? So the Mandelbrot set basically is discovered in the 70s when the computers started coming out. And you might recognise that if you look up Mandelbrot, it's like a little circle.
How do you spell it?
Mandelbrot. I'm not really good at spelling with a B-R-O-T at the end. Mandelbrot.
Yep.
And that basically, when you zoom in on the edge of the Mandelbrot, it's like a fern leaf, but keeps repeating itself. We would have all seen it before, animations of it, just repeated fractals, just repeats itself. So basically, it's mathematics. Just to go a little bit into the more detail, it's basically functions on a compound plane. Who wants to look up that? So it's basically imagine x, y, and you've got -1, -2, +1 on the other side, -1, -2, and the y, +1 on the other side. So the negative plus a negative is a positive, something to do with that, and they're called functions. So basically it forms patterns that repeat themselves mathematically to form, basically, I'd say, our world. When you look at the latest discovery, which was the Mandelbrot. So the Holy Grail was, will it form in a three-dimensional world like a shape? And some guys cracked it in 2009, and they formed this thing called a Mandelbrot, and I love it. It's like a torus, and it looks organic. And the very top of the torus... And the
torus is like a big donut.
A donut, which plays a part in our existence as well.
Yep. Well, we're big donuts.
We are big donuts, yes. And it's what I couldn't believe is like a 7-flower opening up from the top of it. It actually looks like a 7-flower.
You don't race to the 7s just yet. And the flowers. Just hold off on that one for just a second. Okay. I know where you want to go.
That blew my mind. That made me look at it more. The 7's a journey for me. Wow.
Yeah.
I've got a massive wall. I've just... vinyl wrapped it in the Mandelbrot. But anyone can download the program. It's free, called Mandelbrot 3D. You can learn it, and you can play around in this fractal world. It's amazing.
So what's it going to show me? You've spent a lot of time
turning maths into a three-dimensional object. So it's maths. So in our visual world, we see 3 dimensions. So it's... Yeah.
Okay. I just had a glimmer of an insight there, because my surface level understandings of things is that math is a language of truth and a universal language, and math is a language that can describe practically everything that we can observe more accurately than anything else. That's really right. Speaking. I think I just heard you say that three-dimensional objects are actually just math. Is that what you just said?
Well, this is what the Mandelbrot form is: three-dimensional objects using mathematics and repetitive formula. Now that's open for debate. And like I said, I'm not a mathematician. I went and read right into what the guys who says that you're correct and that's that shape. But I went right into the breaking downs of it, and yes. So the first thing you open a Mandelbrot 3D, you press calculate, and it forms a Mandelbrot. Then you can fly around and change other maths and do other things to it, make some beautiful three-dimensional worlds that you can fly around in. And it's just amazing stuff.
So math produces three-dimensional worlds.
Yeah. That when you see them, they look. If you saw on my horses, they had my fractal mathematic plates on there. On the chariot, I had about 3 or 4 different plates on there as well. So it's just a art form that I can do again. That's not necessarily me. You know, it exists.
So you're actually just capturing some part of reality.
Making people aware of something that they can probably do as themselves as well.
Yeah. So you're seeing with the way that you contemplate the world and continually connect with the world, you're actually seeing how everything stems from math. So like this
math and then turned into frequency. But my main thing I want to point out is that we're a single consciousness, that I am, you and me. Well, only thing to me makes sense is I'm talking back to myself. You know, if I wasn't part of you and went part of me, which is can be easily proven that we're all part of each other, part of this existence. I mean, you can go on and about the creator and who is, like I said, I just call it it. When you look it in the dictionary, it stands for a man, female, planet. It even tells you that it's everything. So a lot of confusion happens with source or God. So from this, I've come to the conclusion that we are our own gods and we can manifest. And you know, that's from Joe Dispenza. There's a good book called Become Supernatural. That was another one that Geezer gave to me, and I read and I've shared with my friends. I just thought that really gels with me. And that mentions, if you listen to it mentions frequencies, it mentions sevens, it mentions all the things. It's like they were talking to me. I was going, wow, obviously on the right track. And I think the more you're on the right track, I think the universe will look after you, or it will look after you. Doors will open. Remember, because everything's a frequency. Money's a frequency. Your words are a frequency. And also, you can be manipulated through your words, through spelling. You know, this isn't the original language that we actually spoke. So you can think, I think a good example I say of that is television. Have you seen the new program and the new casting program, television? Which I'm thinking about creating my own one called Creative Vision, called Creative Vision. It's better than television to be told. It's better to create. So just another words are spells. Be careful of that.
I have read a little bit of Einstein just in pop, and I also followed a bit of Steve Hawkins, and I like to just with Einstein, one of my favorite things that I discovered about him was that when he was, so it's for the story of it, for anyone who doesn't know, for Einstein, he did start off in a patent office, and he was always intelligent. That part of the story is actually undermined, that he wasn't brilliant beforehand. He was actually mentored very highly when he was in school. But anyway, then he became a patent clerk for a while. And then he started to think about relativity, and he used to just daydream a huge amount of his life. He used to just sit around and dream about what it must be like to be moving at the speed of light. And that was like what he was tasking his brain to do, to imagine moving at the speed of light. And because he spent so much time imagining that, he started to have some observations. He started to be able to be like, well, if I'm moving at the speed of light, then maybe these things would happen. And then he came up with a whole bunch of theories about it, and then he was able to actually find evidence that they might have some validity to them, right? So he put a theory out there that's pretty strong. Steve Hawkins similarly actually imagined what it was like to be a black hole for a lot of his later life. He was just like, what's a black hole? Like, and so his way of doing that was just imagining being a black hole. What are you imagining?
Well, imagining, for me, I've sort of pulled away from a lot of the theories, because a lot of it is theories, like with gravity, and a lot more looked deeper into things, magnetism. There's a lot that's just not known. So a lot of them become a series, and if it fits in with the mainstream objective, then so be it. It gets used.
Yep.
To me, I go by the one particular thing, that seeing is believing, and I question everything.
Yep.
You know, and have love as your main and creativity. So love, creativity, question everything, and seeing is believing. So I've gone to those a way of life, and I like to look at every aspect that everyone's got to say as well, not by putting them down. I don't. When you're talking to someone, if they're saying no, then you just get your back up. So just absorb what the person's saying. Say, yep. You don't have to agree or disagree. It's just we're on our own journey here. It's our existence. We're in control of what with perceptive world. If someone's saying something and you might disagree with them, you can say this. You can say, well, that's great. That's your perception, and they can't argue with that. If someone understands the word perception, then that's your perception, and everyone's entitled to their own perception. You just don't try and preach it onto others. But if people have got the ears to listen, then you've got open conversations. I believe in just being really open about everything, and we are the gatekeepers of our own thoughts. So one of the things I suffered with in my life was not to look people in the eye. And Geezer, my mentor, got onto that. He says, "What are you doing, Dave? You've got to do that." My excuse was I talk too fast. I can't concentrate. It puts me off. But now I realise, no, that's just me making excuses in my own head. So I stopped that, and now I'm getting better. I'm looking at your eyes now.
Oh man, I didn't. I felt this was a very eye contact heavy conversation, so it's great.
But what I normally do, would I'd blur your face out or look at your mouth or your nose. But it's slowed me down a bit too, because I can talk really fast. I just get really excited about my projects, and there's a fine line between talking about the stuff we do and someone banging on about himself so much and ego. That's a little fine line in life as well.
No, but something. After meeting you, I told a lot of people about the experience. Part of why I wanted to do this show, because I met you and I was like, this is profound. One of the things that I really appreciated about our first meetings, even though you go very fast, you give me the opportunity, as you do in this conversation, to ask questions and stop you and be like, mate, what is that? And then you actually answer that. And then so it does take a lot of active listening on my end and not just be bullshitting on my end, because there's actually probably a lot of things that have already gone past me in this conversation. But every now and then I'm like, whoa, I actually want to learn something. So like I got to stop you. Yeah. And then when I stop you, you do actually share. You actually like, this is it, right? Like this is what I'm trying to say. And then you go off again, and I'll be like, wait, come back here.
Well, I've been doing a lot of tours around my house. It seems to be like I do like a couple a week. It's pretty hard to get the enthusiasm up, but I do it.
Best tour that you can do anywhere. If anyone gets the opportunity to get into Dave's house for a tour, it'll fucking blow your mind.
I was thinking about doing a fringe festival where people actually play bring around. It's all set up now, and like I was going to have like the recordings, little so we can walk up. If they want to learn more, they can just hit the recording.
Yeah, I want to get the CEO of Fringe Festival on this show. I don't know quite how to make that a show, but I could pitch it to him.
It's been funny. I mean, I've had so many people. I've had billionaires to, promoters and international acts and that, and they're going, "Who the hell are you?" Like, just why aren't you out there? And I just look at them and say, "I'm here. This is what I live for. It's just one-on-ones." This is what I found when I did the camp called Frequency. Well, it's a good name, Frequency. Yeah, frequency, that shit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I had some big nights. Now I didn't plan the big nights. It's just more planned on. It came about from Frank and Geezer and wanting me to have my own tent for all the time I put into it. When I did the first horses, it was rained out, got sunk in the mud, and it was a nightmare. After those 6 months of building those horses, it got sunk in the mud, and so they had my own little tent, and I lost my track of thought on that one. But just the one, just the people come through, and just the one-on-ones I had with people. Yeah, and give time to walk around there. So it wasn't like the big masses and that. It was so I can show them the vibrational plates and the wind turbines and all those little things that I made. So they're basically that. We had the same spot as Papazan's, and it was 200 square meter tent, which basically filled all my stuff in there. And I didn't have teams of people. It was about 4 of us. It was Dee and Geezer and Frank. We basically did it, and my mate Cosmic came up and helped me. And so basically, the best time of Blaze for me is that time from leading up to when the doors open. You really got all the real genuine people are all helping each other out and building it. There's a lot of work going on to the point, then the crowds come and then it's on. But I just love the one-on-ones and talking to people in depth. Well, I'm getting better now with groups, so I can sort of like concentrate on them and look at each one in the eye.
Well, it's going to be, if you were to do a show of it or an exhibition of it, it's got to, you got to polish out a story that you can tell so that the the listener can follow along. And so I guess there's a skill that you could probably hone in on there. It's just like every time you observe when you're looking in people's eyes and you observe that they're like, I don't know what he's talking about. Then you'd be like, but then you're just going to put together a bit. You're just going to have an act. You're just going to be like, oh, this is my act. I just say, I start here and then I finish here and I say these, 28 paragraphs. And by the end of it, everybody understands everything that I'm talking about and they follow along from start to finish. Because one of the things that I also observed when I came to frequency, I went there quite a few times. Was I went in there with people a few different times, and sometimes they're just like, it's your stuff's so far out there that some people can't even begin to fathom how far out there it is. Because if someone's not contemplated vibration and they've not done any welding and they've never made a motor and they've never made a drive and they haven't studied math and they haven't done any SolidWorks drawing, and even if they're an artist who does some drawing, but like technical drawing is like, because your work is artistry, but it's also fucking technical. So you've got these like two levels going on that you can get there and you can just be like, it's an unknown.
Yeah.
Right. It's an unknown. And so, I mean, like, I'm an engineer by university education. And that gave me just enough belief in myself and trust in myself to look at it, observe that it was something next level, but then also to at least play in the conversation. Right. Like I felt safe enough to, at least say some things, right? Like, I understand what a pulley is and I understand what a drive is and I understand what a kilowatt means something in a motor, right? Like, and I understand those kinds of things, which is already a huge advantage, just language based, because I got to use something to ask the question in the first place other than what or why.
That's usually good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's why I think if I've got one person there, then I can do this. If I'm doing a tour and there's two or three, it's difficult because I want to cover so much as well. And it's like, it takes about 2 to 3 hours to go around everything, but I could just spend a night on the cloning table. That's why I sort of get my anxiety of talking about it. That's why I think I just brush over it and there's a little QR code and then put the phone and make an app and go and talk about it more. But and also, not trying to use languages that people don't understand. I do try and talk on everyone's level. So, from professors to all sorts, but I don't try and pigeonhole people. If they've got the ears to listen or they've got genuine question, then it's fine. I do notice when I'd speak really fast, say all the stuff, and then someone would pop out or something, and wow. And they were listening, but I say so much, and then I'll answer that question for it. And I thought, I pick up on that sometimes as well. So,
yeah. Another just random curiosity question. If you got to just build something crazy to put into the middle of a stadium to show to 60,000 fans before the football game, or 60,000 fans who just came to just see some crazy engineering creation.
I thought about this one actually.
Yeah, cool.
I designed something. The first one I called it the visible. I called it the spherical because it's spherical. But the idea was to spin RGB.
Cool, like CWL.
6 RGB lights spinning around in a circle, say 200 mil diameter, but then have that going through another axis that spins that around, which goes through a third axis which spins that around. So there's a lot of slip rings, and so I built that. We ran it through a lighting desk. Unbelievable lighting. Wow, we've got something here. So then I turned that basically into the next one was called a visible. So then the visible was basically a 3-dimensional television. So it's basically, imagine something 400 or 500 mil diameter with 4 microprocessor LEDs spinning around in a circle and running vision into that. It was amazing. Then I designed it called invisible, where you actually go inside the ball and it's called invisible. You're invisible. Mm-hmm. So it's better, instead of putting high definition glasses over your eyes, you'd be actually in the environment, sitting on a chair, spinning around. So that was leading to it having a massive one in a stadium hanging up from the top. That would actually be 3-dimensional television shaped like a ball. Now, they've built these sort of things before, but they use LEDs and thousands of LEDs into a ball. The Chinese do it in the curve, which is quite difficult. This is actually spinning around. I designed it so it wasn't dangerous, so it could free spin on the shaft. So
hang on. So you want to build like a semi-sphere that covers a stadium?
No, it would be like, imagine they've got those screens and it's in the stadium, they've got like one facing this way, one facing that way.
Yeah, where you would normally score for the footy.
Well,
like,
that's the big on the edge, but I've been to stadiums where they're sitting in the middle.
Yep.
You know, like be strung up there or...
Oh, yep.
So that would be a ball spinning around, so it's three-dimensional. I'm probably not going to make it. And that was an idea you just mentioned, a stadium, so I go to that. But yeah, I could march my horses in there or do something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't really thought about doing big stuff. Like I just like the blazing swan, the Burning Man sort of principles, you know. Otherwise, I could put my horses walking around town or do something like that.
Yeah. I think it'd be pretty cool to see your horses walk around town. I'd like to see
that.
Well,
in the future, if I could be bothered.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there's...
Put the Roman outfit on, get back on the chariot and walk your horses down the main road of town.
There's also the shoe bike that I made as well. Next Blaze. We can mention that one as well if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so the shoe bike has one of those beautiful details about just a surprise piece or an extra piece.
I threw a lot in that one. Hey? Yeah.
I did mention in the intro, but it's a electric bike that's got wheels that have spokes, just like a normal bike has spokes coming out of it. But then instead of there being a rim there's just like a heap of sneakers.
28 sneakers.
28 sneakers on each.
And the LED ones that light up individually as well. I had to throw that in. That was hard.
So 28 LED sneakers in a giant circle to make a rim.
You know why that came about?
No.
The bloody double G's at Blaze.
Oh, yeah.
Stuck in your feet.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, the punches and the bikes, I'll make shoes. I don't feel them in my shoes when I walk around my shoes. So the shoes work well at Blaze. But I got carried away with that one.
Yeah.
As I do.
And so there's already an extra there. Because making a bike with wheels that have rims that are shoes is difficult, and it's already like a silly thing. But then to make them light up as well is like, well, that's what I'm talking. That's what
that was hard.
That's you where it's just like you're going extra. The bike frame,
stainless steel 316, like 2.5 mil, 2.5 inch tubing.
Yeah,
it's got the bike frame that you're probably going to mention is also a rocket launching.
Yeah.
As well, I'm running on map gas, and one side there's two tubes. One holds the tennis balls, and the other one you can launch it.
Yeah,
it's got the laser headlights as well.
But again, that's just pointing at how your mind works, because it's like, all right, like
was a frame there?
You got to build a frame anyway. But then you're like, what else can I do? Or like it's it's got to be a frame. Oh, why don't I make it a rocket launcher?
So many secret compartments, and I had laser projection come out as well. Full DJ set up on there.
Your house is nothing but secret compartments as well. They're fucking everywhere.
Yeah, I've got my secret underground room.
Yeah. And I heard that that all those things are actually extremely difficult to do. Including the frame. You had to source a tube from somewhere.
It was like another $300 or $400 of design on computer, trying different designs, because I'm not going to waste my time. Same with the horses and that. I'm not going to build something I'm not happy with. That's not cool. So I had to sit on a chair and see where did I want to sit. I want to sit like that. So that was my starting point. So then it kept growing, but plenty of different designs. I had single wheels, and they're not actually wheels too. The front one's a decagon because it's got 10, and there's 2 on the back, and they've got 9. Do you know what a 9-sided object is? I'm probably going to say it wrong because most people don't know it. So it's a nenagon or something like that. It's a funny name.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not wheels actually. And I tell people too, it doesn't run. It walks.
Oh, it walks. Yeah. So you got a decagon and a nonagon or whatever.
But there's 2 on the back, so there's left and right, and the front so it's done left and right in it as well. So it actually is. The shoes, because I wanted to light up, the cheap Chinese, they're chrome shoes, cost me a fortune. I've got my second batch on there already.
You have to buy 28 shoes.
Yeah, and they're flat. It was a funny story. I actually ordered 14 shoes, thinking I do 14. Oh, forgetting they come left and right. So I'm stuck with 28 shoes, and then my final design has 28 shoes, so it was meant to be. That's a factor of 7 as well. But then I ran wheelchair motors on it again, putting driver boards on it, but it's kept blowing the driver boards out because the thing weighs 120 kilograms.
The bike does?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I got the batteries alone is 75 kilograms, 2 batteries, 120 amps each. So I wanted a lot of amps there to keep it going. Mm-hmm. So I've had and been hiding all the wiring in there. It's difficult to work on. But yeah, just ordered my latest board from America. Another $500 there. It costs money for this to do all this, keep doing these things as well.
Yeah. So in researching this show, I learned that you're a machinist that kind of finished high school early.
Yeah, 15, left school at 15.
Yeah, so just did machinist work. At some point you had a wrecking yard. At some point you also built a really, really, really amazing muscle car.
My first car when I was 17. The day I got my license when I was 17, that was a Monday. I sat for my license and got it. And then on the Friday, I bought my car and I've still got it now. It's got its own room in the house. It's a HQ 308 GDS 2-door Monaro, original yellow and black. That's my baby. Got right into it. Built the engine myself. When we talk about the work I do here, the effort I put into machining the engine, I can talk anyone's head off about that. Made my own stainless mandrel exhaust system, nitrous oxide on it, put 9-inch in it, and I got addicted to drag racing and streets and legally somehow. I don't know. I can't say that, can I? That's very many years ago. But so that was my baby. Got right into it and showed it for many years. Did really well at the shows. Mm-hmm. Even if you put something in front of me like a little target, like an award, I tend to aim towards that, an award, and I've been quite successful to generally win the awards. In 1994, there was named the top 20 cars, street machines in WA, and I wasn't in any clubs or anything like that. No one really knew me, and I took the top award. So I won top car in the state, 1994, street machine state champion. It's been in national magazines, and people were doing burnouts and leaving because who's that guy? Because I painted my engine pink as well, because you just don't paint your engine pink. Not when you're into drag racing. So when I was to drag someone and beat them, pop the bonnet. You got beaten by Poof the Pink 308, mate. It was a classic.
Yeah.
So I've never sold that. I built a GDS ute, went at a wrecking yard for 4 years, learned how to spray paint and panel beat. It's one of the hardest things you can do with a lot of effort. It's a lot of admiration for a good panel beater and spray painter. Did about 15 cars up, but I built a HQ GDS ute just like mine, chrome yellow and black, because no one had done one before that looked right. So houndstooth interior. It was just basically a copy of mine, and had that display at Big Boys Toys when I also won Australia's best barbecue. I made a car out of an EJ Holden called the Carbecue. People on the show might have seen it, was on TV a lot, just went crazy. So I had Big Boys Toys, I had my ute and I had my Monaro and I had my Carbecue. Didn't get paid for it, wasn't for sale or anything like that. I remember guys at the end were saying, you think everything's got a price. Like, how much for the Monaro? How much for the Monaro? This is not for sale. And it was my first car. No, everything's for sale. How much? And there was Lamborghinis, there was helicopters there. These guys had a bit of money. They wouldn't say a price though. Okay, how much for that? And I started up, revved it up, and the girlfriends with them. And it was quite funny. It sounded really good, eh? And then not for sale. And he wanted a price. I said, all right then. I said, see that steering wheel? Because I handmade my own billet steering wheel, roll cages, all hand brushed alloy everywhere. So that steering wheel, that's my art piece. Took a lot of work to make that. I might let that go for a couple $100,000. But probably not. Yeah. So I just shut them down like that.
Yeah.
Why does everything have to have a price? It's my car. I regret selling it. Some people had their cars and said, wish I didn't sell it. Well, I can't say that. I've still got my first BMX Kuwahara, the first model. Used to race that. Still got that as well. First house, first car. Yeah, so that's the way I like to roll, I guess.
Yep. The Carbecue as well is a bonnet or is a boot?
It's the front of a 1962 EJ Holden. Did it metallic blue. Put a 5-burner gas barbie in it. It's got wheels, a horn.
The front half is just the bonnet of a car that you just pop the bonnet and there's a perfect barbecue in there.
Yeah, sit in the backyard and call it the Carbecue. So I entered in Australia's best barbecue competition someone told me about. And then I ended up winning that. Trip for 2 to Ayers Rock.
That's a strange prize.
Because it meets in the middle, I guess. But the producer rang me the next year because I wanted to do it again. They didn't have any video footage of it. I said, you got to enter it again. I said, if I'm going to win. So I made a video. And I was in the kitchen. I recognised that voice. It was me on TV talking about my car. Quite funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it got a lot of it. Out of all the work I did back then with the Monaro and that got a lot of attention. It was in all the magazines or TV shows, and that really hit a nerve. And a funny story, I had one of the top photographers in the world. His name is Frances Andrich. She came over and was taking photos and the Carbecue, setting it all right. Wanted it all to be right. She leant back, she fell in the pool with a camera, in fully clothed. So it was a little funny moment. But, yeah, so that was on the cover
just
of
making an impression at your place, just falling into the pool with a camera.
Yeah, well, I made the cover of the West magazine at the time.
Do you have girls falling in the pool for you often, Dave?
Yeah. Look, I like having parties, and I've had lots of parties over the years. That's why I get to meet people.
Yeah.
Neighbours don't like me so much. I'm a bit of the neighbourhood.
Yeah.
But so lots of parties. I don't think I'll stop doing parties ever. I'll slow down a bit. You just have 1 or 2 big ones a year. But yeah, my house is set up so people come. You know, they enjoy themselves. You know, I've got music. It's just got so much to do. The table tennis, pool tables. I've got those big old ski machines and pinballs. But I'm collecting this stuff secondhand myself. Like I said, I'm not made of money. I'm just clever with the money, little bit of money that I have, and buy the right things with an intention of knowing that I can probably fix them up if I need to. It's one of the hardest things is to maintain stuff. Things always break down. Usually electronics for me. You know, that's like even pinballs. There's so much can go wrong with those. And the motivation I lacked for getting them going again. I got a bit of time on my side now, so I'm actually going through my
fixing things.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw the Infinity Cube Octahedron I made. It was on top of the chariot when at frequency. Just got that going last night actually, because it's got all. They're amazing. People would have seen infinity cubes and stuff. So I made quite a large 777 diameter internal diameter, and that's of a cube octahedron. It sits up as a light in my house above my Clandy table.
Yeah, I would have seen it, but I can't remember what it is.
You would have seen the infinity mirror curved in front of the chariot that I made.
Yep.
Because we'll probably talk about the chariot as well, because a lot of work went into that. It's got a curved infinity mirror on the front of it that's 77 mil thick. There's a lot of work on that. A guy called Ned used to help me out before the blaze, and he was shaking his head like, I want this done. And go, oh, there's so much, only 2 weeks to go, like every night helping out. It's like, people can sort of, like you said, you're an engineer, you know how much work's involved, but you can times that by 10. It's just so much work to get to an event like that. And to get to that event, I drove it there. So my first test drive was 2.5 ton on the back of my territory, 350 k's down the road. I barely made it up Greenmount Hill. And the night before, because I didn't know the camber I should put on the weight, because the horses go on the back of this, the whole thing hooked on the back of my car, that I had to invent my own suspension system with no axle going through it, which has never been done before. So stub axles coming through slide plates with suspension arms on them, and with a winch system to lower it up and down so the horses can walk on there. Then it raises up for the road wheels. Then it raises up for the big wagon wheels that I've made. And then it's got 4 electric rams that stabilise it when you want to DJ on it. Plus it's got hidden compartments with pendulum waves in it. And it's got another hidden compartment with a clogging table in the middle. People didn't even know. Yep. A fridge in it as well.
Yep. For anyone who's still catching up, this is the chariot.
Awesome chariot.
That's pulled by Dave's horses. And so it's a Roman style chariot that has great big giant metal wheels on it, like a Roman chariot would. What are they? How wide are they? How tall are
they? They're 1.5 meters diameter.
They're big wheels.
That's to help with the design, because to roll that, because I can roll that chariot around by myself. So there's a bit that clips on the front of it that detaches and attaches to my car. Then the wind turbine I built sits on that. When you drive down the road, actually, the wind.
Wait. We haven't got to wind turbine yet. So it looks like a Roman style chariot, except from the future. And but then to get it to events, Dave also made the chariot so that you can take the Roman wheels off it and put it on a bunch of car tires, and then he can put his horses in the back of his Roman chariot, and he can tow his horses in his chariot behind his car to an event.
And I did it.
Yeah, but it weighs 3 tons. So don't try and stop in a hurry, and you'll struggle up to.
Yeah, so scary.
Yeah,
because the camber of the wheels just went right in the night before, and it was hitting the side, because I didn't know what the weight was going to be like until I put it all together, and I got the camber wrong, so I couldn't drive. I had to rush out that night, find a mate who had a machine shop, open his machine shop up, and route spacer plates that night so I could drive them next day to the blaze. These are little stories like that. But as you know, I've written a book on it called The Horsome Story. Yep. And I've never really promoted it, because it was Frank Mitchell was actually saying, how'd you go getting back? I nearly died, Frank. Oh, you should write a story. So the next day, 7 days, I wrote this book. So there's a big, quite detailed.
You punched that book out in 7 days.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that book was about 77 pages as well. Is that correct?
Geez, it's not about 7, right? By the way, guys, my favourite number is 6. I just studied 7, right? 7 is just a key to existence. So.
Devil number. 7 is the key to existence.
Well, I live at number 7 by chance, Wow. I look up my Chinese number, it's number 7. It just happens all around me now. So, as I said, maybe there's a higher purpose here. Maybe I don't know, is it a coincidence or not? I don't know. I'm just Dave doing this stuff. really. And these guys get to see it. Most people stop talking about the stuff. Imagine me trying to explain I'm building some horses that's going to do this. People just look at you. I find it hard just to explain to them when the horse is in front of them. So I just stop trying to explain my ideas I've got in my head and build them, and then just put them into the tour, so people can see it then. But I've got many projects I'm doing. Star in a Jar. I can just go on and on. I've got so many things.
Man, get a grant and put your projects at a fringe festival next year or some Perth public.
It's hard to move the
festival.
stuff around, so it's got to be at my house and people come to the house.
No, get a grant, get someone to give you a bunch of money for it, and then sell tickets on top of that as well. And it's just to make it practical and worthwhile. Plus, when you've got a grant and you've got some acknowledgement from a granting body and you're selling tickets and you're marketing, then the people who come are interested. You actually get
that could lead on to other things. Like I said, I'm in...
Yeah, for sure.
Since I was at the hospital for 20 years, talk about maybe a bit later, but I've been free now since November, and I've never been in this position before. I've been working pretty hard since I was 16, 5 days a week, and being a full-time father. That's why my daughter's 17 now. She's just sort of like moving out a bit. But I'm in a bit of a good spot where I'm just learnt now to not necessarily listen to your mind and your heart, but listen to my stomach, my gut. I think your gut can talk to you if you can actually listen to it when you put food in and how it talks to you, and when you're nervous or when you're maybe dating the wrong person. I think it's it's a steering mechanism, I think, for us being in our existence in this ether. So I've been doing that and not worrying about money, because money is a frequency, and if you put too much energy onto that, it can create fear, like fear of losing your job, fear of doing this. So I've trying to take fear out of my life and just go for sit on this frequency and see what happens. And it's been amazing. I remember, I was just about to leave my job and with a mortgage and everything, and am I doing the right thing? Money, I just should not worry about money. I go home that day and there was $300 in the fridge because a mate stayed over and left me some money. I didn't ask for that. Then someone came in and bought 3 pairs of my glasses, and then someone else bought some necklaces that I was making. And so I had about 2 or 3 grand cash in my hand. I was going, wow.
That was quick.
What happened there? That never happens, And there's another story with my number plates. I ended up selling my number plates for my car, and I've got good money for that. I don't get too much detail of that story, but so now I'm able to be able to have a bit of a break and see what happens. So I've got this rich guy that wants a secret entrance put into his house for his $1 million magazine collection. I've got other people throwing things at me, ideas, but I think I'm just sitting. The right thing is going to happen. I think maybe, I'm just in that position at the moment. So I could refine my ideas, maybe like the water cymatics. I have taken that to events and played it. I could do things like that, but just not sure. I think I'll just see what happens. Maybe something comes from this. I don't know.
Yep. So you've been leaning into trusting your gut. Is that something? How long have you been practicing doing that?
That's
for?
only since since November last year, about the middle of last year, that all came down to that's an important spot. Now you think about it, everything's a frequency. You put frequencies into your mouth. We call it food. So what frequency are you putting in you? Your stomach reacts to that, and generally it tells you. So again, with words, one of them is called spirits, alcohol. I stopped really drinking alcohol. I'm having a couple tonight because calm the nerves a bit. But I basically realised they're called spirits because it takes away your spirit. And when I drank alcohol, all I found is I would vomit. And worse than anyone else, my stomach was but that's my stomach saying, don't put this in there. Don't do it. And I just kept ignoring it. A lot of people don't vomit, so they just keep drinking. Do you have a strict diet at the moment then, or are you moving? I'm working on my diets now because I do these gatherings at my house on Tuesdays, and we've had some good guests. I had a doctor come along there as well and talk about the current situation. I've had this guy Anthony Schaefer, which is he's a brain surgeon, and he's a full carnivore, and he was a botanist and talking about the realised plants for poisons and then he just does pure meat, and he reckons cutting the sugars out and he's saved lots of people just from eating pure meat. Now the ethics of that, obviously, killing.
There's so many different diets these days. It's so crazy.
And I that really shook me up because I was just about to get into smoothies and shopping vegetables and otherwise. But then the way he explained things like every plant chooses that plant and works with that plant to eat. They don't just eat like humans do, a whole lot of plants. So a lot of sicknesses could be coming from the variety that we eat. How do we know that other animals just have the one? So he had a lot of good points to, but then, there's the life that you take away as soul, and then you could go to the plants. We're working with the mycelium, and they haven't got hearts like us, and there's ethics. But so that it's funny you mentioned diets. I was just talking today about diets with someone who's pretty full into it. So I'm just feeling my way out around that one. But, so I can't say I've totally settled. I tried the meat thing because I got the meat from a farmer, so it's local, so it's grown on the land and it's loved. And I've also, because I think it plays a big part in, how an animal's killed. It's a big one, but it's very important what we put inside us. And then that will generally, you can cure and do everything with your mind anyway. Placebo and nocebo. I think placebo is a very big important thing.
Yep.
If you believe that that's good for you, it's doing well for you, and it's grown in the right ways, it can probably do good for you that way.
I think I'm strong-minded like that as well, and while I also do acknowledge the difference that a different diet can make and how food can change you, because you are putting things in you, whichever way you want to look at it. You're definitely putting things into the body. My life experience is my metabolism is through the roof. I can eat like a horse and I weigh the same amount, or I can barely eat at all.
Yes,
and
everyone's different. Yes.
Yeah, I'm very different, and I could eat like a horse, every day for months. And I did do this once in a previous job where I was working fly in, fly out on a mine site, and they feed you very heavily there, or they provide a lot there, and you can feed yourself heavily if you want to, and I did. Over a couple of years I did put on a few kilos, but I was still a lean guy. So I run very lean, just normally. And I think that's because my mind is in charge. It's strong, and it wants to keep this body.
Well, you're probably active as well.
I'm active, but man, I can see how different it is, because I can hang out with a bunch of mates and we can all do the same amount of movement over a trip, and I can observe their lifestyle and observe mine, and I can eat like a crazy maniac and not do any activity for a while, and nothing happens to my body weight. Right?
Yeah. But what's it like? Your genetics. Structure of your history as well,
Reincarnation
plays a part in it as well.
My brothers are all the same.
Yeah.
And then my mum's also always been on a good healthy body shape.
I'd say you got a good gut that sorts it all out, really.
Yeah, so I have actually also thought that my gut's kind of indestructible in that sense, that I can kind of just punish it a little bit. The big one for me then is just getting my mind in check, right? Yep. So if I'm too heady, so it's just all right, I'm pretty heady. It's my gut's not giving me the feedback or vibes often enough that I need. So it's really just got to move down to my heart and sit in that vibration a little bit more, feel into that space a bit more. I did have a mushroom trip a long time ago, and while I was on the mushroom trip, we went for food. We just went to a pub because we were going to the pub. We were at the beach, and then there was a crew there. We were like, let's go to the pub. And so I went to the pub with them, and we just started ordering food and drink the way that you do. And the little tripper voice inside me came up and was like, mate, what are you eating for right now? Right? Why are you just indulging?
Yeah.
Right? Why are you putting this food in? You're not actually hungry. And that's been one that's attempted to guide my diet for quite some time, because
it's interesting you say that, because I've come along those same thoughts as well.
Yeah, and that food also happened to have meat on it as well, and the thought was just look, you're not doing this for your body. You're not doing this to sustain you or to improve your health and vitality. You're just doing it because you can, right? And it's just well, why would you? And then why would you eat a meat product just blasé like that, right? There's no high level of consciousness there. I'm just literally just putting taste in my face and letting my metabolism burn it out. And that has attempted to shape my diet since then. It's weird though. The other one with diet for me is like as a kid, I think I just used to get stuffed with pasta, and like my parents just fed me heaps of pasta, and like I developed this habit that the only way that I knew that I had enough full was when I was bloated, which was almost certainly because I was actually like fucking inflamed in my belly, right? Like I would eat like this giant bowl of pasta. Like it just when I look at the sizes of the meals that my brothers eat now, and I'd be like, why would you have so much pasta? That's insane. And I know that if I was to do that now, I can still digest it, but I'd actually have a bloated belly, and that's definitely because everything inside me is swelling up. But it's not swelling up too badly. Like, you know, it's just swelling up just a little bit. I can tolerate it, and I can do it again for lunch and dinner and breakfast the next day and lunch and dinner, and I can do that for fucking years on end. But it's not great.
I just think we've conditioned to eat more than we really need to. I think that's part of the world being run on commercialisation as well.
Yeah, so eat more.
Eat more. And half the stuff when you go on the shelves, you know, they're just crap, really. Yeah. And that's what I'm doing. I'm speaking to lots of people, and this Solus Black, he's a blazer as well. You know, Solus, he's amazing. His mind's incredible. And then we're talking this morning about, I go to those morning swims down the beach. Have you heard of those for the Human Excellence Project?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Yeah, I've just become part of those guys, and I love it. It's great. Yep. We're meant to be on holidays and sleeping in. Now I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning. It's like, wow.
But you're not going to sleep in, mate.
But I do struggle with sleep, guys. You can ring. My thing was you can ring up at any time. I'll go, yep, what do you want? Yep. Meant to be sleeping, but yeah. So the conversation this morning was great. Talking about how grains aren't really good, anything seed based. It's got poisons and that in it, and I haven't really heard that before, but it fits in a bit with this Anthony Schaefer, the carnivore guy. He had some really good points that. It's pretty undeniable. You're saying that when you eat meat, you generally only eat when you're hungry. You don't eat as much, and you don't poo as much, because it generally absorbs all the nutrients in it. And the guy's built like a god. He's ribbed and everything. So he was a world champion rugby player. It's not like okay, but his mindset was that. So that could play a part in it as well. But I do think we eat more than we need, and we poo more than we need. Yeah,
that's undeniable in my life experience.
From that night that this guy came in, so we had two of my friends who've actually tried it, and they're on it now. So they've been on it for like 2.5 months, and they swear by it now. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to get rid of the sugars. And he says salt, butter, fat's really good for you, and meat. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to have a drink bone broth, which sounds terrible, but I just bought some.
I like bone broth. It's
I just bought bone broth, and I'm loving it. It's my new coffee now. Yuval
Noah Harari got me onto that. Do you know who he is? He's the author of the book called Sapiens. It's a great book. And he says that humans possibly evolved to become the way that they are at a point in time where they were like pretty solid middle of the pack. Like they weren't the apex predator, and they weren't smart enough to be the apex predator, and they, still developing language skills, but they were starting to develop tool skills and to be able to work things. And so when some prey animals, like some lions, went and killed some things, eventually the lions would finish up with the carcass, and then the hyenas would go there, and the hyenas would pick everything else off the bones, and then there'd be just nothing but a bunch of bones left. And that's when the humans could finally come in, right? So like you have to wait for the lions to have their share, then you waited for the hyenas to come and pick everything through, and then after those predators are out the way because they've got no good with bones, then the humans would come in, crack the bones open, and then they would fish out the marrow. And the marrow there was like a really, really vitally good part of our health and wellness is having that. That's not sorry, we're just opening drinks. This is not a cider. This is a dark beer. Yeah. Cider's the green label. Yeah, sweet. So I did get into marrow.
Well, stem cell work, bone, it makes sense in a way, when you think about it. And I think history has been deliberately manipulated, and I think a lot of amazing stuff's happened, even from 150 years ago. I think current organisation that runs the world, I call it the Mafia, they don't let us know fully what's going on. Mm-hmm. And a part of it, every animal knows, instinctively, or instinct.
Yep.
What to eat. We don't really know. So are we being told for the right things, or maybe we did know years ago, and maybe they're not telling us because of commercialisation was Coles, buy this, buy that, eat that, more food. We probably didn't need to eat as much. and it's probably more quality based. And I think with the meat side of it was you could dry it out and you can have it for years. Now, if there wasn't, I go to the shops now and buy all my fruit and veg. It only lasts a week, and that's in the fridge.
Yep.
They didn't have fridges.
Yep.
So it makes sort of sense that we maybe grow up on the side of the meats and that. But I still don't know, because I've got a heart and I've got the ethics of killing an animal, and I think it's hard. But and I'm thinking probably going to go more towards what Solis was saying, meat and fruit. And I reckon you said watermelon's like amazing. So you'd ever think watermelon's amazing, but apparently it is.
Yeah.
I love the taste of my fruit smoothies.
The new watermelon diet. Look out for it. Yeah.
Is that?
So yeah, we're talking diet and health, but maybe an area that you're even more experienced with health-wise and have maybe more authority on is things to do in cancer research, because you spent a good decade or so or longer working on a cyclotron.
Oh, you said it. Most people don't know what a cyclotron. Believe me, I didn't know what it was until WA got their first cyclotron in 2003.
Yep. So you got it in 2003 and you were at the project right at the start?
Yeah, the foresight was amazing. Like so Charles Gardner Hospital, cyclotrons produce radioisotopes, or radioactivity is probably the hottest radiation you can probably find in the state that's manufactured. And
so it produces radioactive
I'll get into that, but I'm just saying that the room itself was like 2 meter thick concrete walls and a maze to get in there. So you can't, when this thing runs, imagine, this is called an 18-9 cyclotron, it was an IBA one. And they imagine a UFO, looks like a UFO, 2 meters diameter, 2 meters tall.
Yeah,
it splits in the middle. And since 2003, the boss of my department, Medtech and Physics, Charles Gardner Hospital, who is a professor, really amazing guy, one of the smartest guys I've ever met.
What's his name?
Roger Price. He's retired now. He had the foresight of it. We got the keys to a particle accelerator, cyclotron, and because he knew I can build things, he utilised me to build stuff for it. So the main primary role of a cyclotron is to have a PET scan, positron emission tomography,
which you use for cancer, the PET scan.
Yeah, so this is an interesting story we were talking about before about sugars and stuff, and people should learn a bit from this. Basically, a cyclotron produces a proton beam. I can go into detail if you want how that does that, splitting hydrogen atoms and stuff.
Teach us about the PET scan part, and maybe we might come back to that.
Okay, so basically, for a PET scan, your cancer is the most active cell in your body, and what feeds cancer is sugar. That's in every product. It's a growth industry, I say. So to find where your cancer is for diagnostics, you need they've worked out that if you mix glucose with a radioactive tracer and inject it into the body, due to your weight, and it's quite a large dose, so it can just be right. And then you put it in this camera, positron emission tomography camera.
The PET scan.
It'll pick up, the sugar will go to your cancer, and it will have a radioactive trace there. So it will show up as dark patches.
Ah, okay. Let me say that back. So cancer loves to eat sugar. So if you mix glucose, which is sugar, with something radioactive, and then you make a patient eat that,
they inject it into them.
You inject it into them. That'll travel around, and then the cancer will be like, glucose, and it'll
show where your cancers are.
It'll froth on it, and then
generally you don't really want one. You probably want to do it towards your later stages of cancer to find the spots. But
you don't want to do a PET scan.
I never did one.
Because you're consuming radioactive particles.
I thought it would be good for me because I worked on the cyclotron, so I worked on the high levels of radiation. My job was to go in. There was 2 electronics guys and 1 mechanical. I was the only one mechanical, so I would. They split it open every 3 months. We'd do a service. You got to imagine a machine that's got 5-stage amplifier. It's got vacuum 10 to the -7. It's got so many O-rings. It's got high voltage. And if one thing doesn't work, it's not going to split the hydrogen atom. Right? And then you've got patients lined up with service about 20,000
so it's got
patients.
to split hydrogen atoms. That's what the device actually does.
Yeah,
it splits the hydrogen atoms.
Quickly talk about how it runs. It's without getting too detailed.
Yeah.
Remember, I left school at 15 and I had a wrecking yard before this. So I'm thrown into the cyclotron. Right? It's just like you guys are listening. Yeah, but basically they use hydrogen in its purest 0.9999%. So that's just got 1 electron, 1 proton. Right? There's no neutron. So basically, we inject it into the central region. That's what I set up. Imagine 2 little electrodes in the center region with a little slit there, and that gets excited by high voltage, and when it's in the vacuum, and when it gets excited, it produces negative and positive electrons. So then it gets excited. So then it gets extracted out of that slit through magnetism.
Well, that's the hydrogen atom.
The hydrogen with excited electrons on there. So that gets basically extracted, and with magnetism and RF frequency, it accelerates it to the speed of light, roughly to the outer diameter. So there's a beam going around now with positive electrons and negative electrons. So now we just want protons, and it's got protons there as well. So we bring there's 8 little targets that go around here. That's right, I worked on different targetry. But that would do, we bring a little carbon stripper. So it's a little stripper of carbon, and it's on a stripper carousel. So we, in the control room, we bring it into the beam. It directs the beam outside the port. So then it takes the electrons off, and you just got protons. So now you can change the nucleus of an atom. So basically, you've got a proton.
Because once you've taken the electron off, the atom is now unstable, or
it's just protons.
It's just protons.
We just want protons to change the nucleus of an atom.
Yep.
Now there's different. The way they do it with this one is we get natural isotope is O16, but we get this heavy water called O18. So they basically drain so much water to get this pure water. It's quite expensive. So we put that in the target, little liquid target, and the proton beam has to go through there. There's a vacuum window, there's helium cooling, there's a bit to get it to hit that. So when it hits that, produces this thing, I think, of fluorine. I'm not sure I'm not the science, I'm not in the chemistry. There's chemists, there's physicists, a lot involved with this. So once that happens, it gets pumped down to these lead channels, to these synthesis boxes with the glucose and everything's mixed in, and that's where it's made there. So the primary role is hitting water with the proton beam, and then it makes a radioactive trace. So radiation is measured in half-lives. So the half-life of this stuff is 1 hour. So we've got to make a lot of activity, like gigabeccles of activity, so it decays through the day. So we can see we've serviced like 22,000 patients in WA state. So we ship this stuff. We starts off at 3 o'clock in the morning and runs, and about 8 o'clock we've got stuff ready. So imagine if anything goes wrong with this, it's the only one in the state. And we've got patients, doctors, everything lined up. And we had a run for 5 years with 100%. Because one of the guys that I worked with, his name's Sun, is so smart, and he lived near
Sun who?
Sun Chan, and he lived like up the road from it. So he'd take all the calls at 4 o'clock in the morning, and so I never even got any calls. I was so lucky over this period of time, because I wouldn't know what to say or do, because a lot of it's electronic based and there's a lot of science behind it. But we had such a tight team, and we'd fix it, and we had teams come from overseas.
So you'd make a fresh batch every 8 a.m. and then you'd have to... And then how long does the batch last for?
Well, it lasts for the day.
It lasts for a day because of the half-life being so quick.
And you've got to go nowhere near this bolus. It's so hot. So part of my job was to make hot cells. I call them hot cells. We have 50 mil lead. And
is it the only one in Australia?
Only one in WA.
Oh, the only one in WA.
Yeah. There's a new one getting built up. Now private mob's doing it. And we're just about to get a second cyclotron in there. But I no longer work for the department more so. But very interesting. But what I was more involved with, because I was there primarily to look after the cyclotron, I had a bit of spare time. So the whatever the hospital required, like say the cancer department, I made a lot of stuff for cancer patients. They might need a chair that goes up and does this, or a bed does this. We get PhD students, they wanted a thorax of a baby to do this. So I'd just make that. They come and see me. What do you need? I'd design it, make it, build it.
My God, PhD students would have fucking fallen in love with you.
I've probably done about 10 or 15 PhD students.
They would have fallen in love with you, because lots of people lack the skill of making the things. They can think of the thing, and when it comes to making it, they're like, oh, how the hell am I going to make this? And if they can bump into a Dave Cryer, and then they're like, oh, can you make this thing?
The funny thing is, I've never been, I never went to university, so I'm not an engineer, but I was employed as an engineer, but not paid as an engineer. I did all this as a technician wage. But I was doing it because it was a good job, and it was good for humanity as well. I made so many good stuff for cancer patients. But then my boss, being who he is, he says, we've got the keys to a cyclotron. We need to start making some stuff. And the biggest, you can either hit liquid, solid, or a gas. The primary thing is with liquid, the water. But the thing with the gas is it's lower lived isotopes, plus it's airborne. But solid targetry was the new thing. So I made a solid target system basically that first year, and it's still running now. I've designed 3 different types. I've done talks around the world science conferences, which is really hard for me because I'm not a scientist. I'm talking in front of 200 nuclear scientists, and it's amazing. And question time was scary. But yeah,
Went from machinist to nuclear science.
I know. I remember the lady at the end she goes, "That was a good talk." She says, "How'd you get into this?" I said, "I had a wrecking yard before this."
Yeah.
But so solid target. I've got about. There's an interesting event. People are into this. If you look up 3D printed metal solid target, it should come up in Google. There's a world paper on one. I'm the second author of about 14 papers, but not first author. But I helped a lot of people do the stuff. So it was good for me because I like being the one man, design it, build it, and I didn't even, what's a solid target? What's a cyclotron? You know, that's a sort of. But that gave me, as more of this happened, it gave me the confidence that I can make anything. I can do anything on my. I can do anything because I've got Google now. I can YouTube it. Like SolidWorks is quite complicated, but I self-taught myself. So I just go on and Google it and people share. So I love people how they share things on. People say, "Dave, how do you do this?" I said, "Have you Googled it? Because that's what I'm going to do." But you know, my luck was that I did it. I was actually smart enough to get a electrician, a pre-apprenticeship, because there's only like 38 in the class, and it was an IQ test. I failed it. So then Dad said, "You should become a fitter machinist." So he got me into pre-apprenticeship in fitting machining, which is operating lathes and mills and metal. I'm so happy I did that because that's what I have got over most people. Because operating a lathe and a mill, which I have at home now, it brings your creative mind up. And then you learn to weld on top of that. So you look at things, different machinists who can't weld will make something different to someone who can weld something on their machine it all up. And then you bring drawing into it because I could basically do anything with just out of my head. But then making that solid target system, I had to say to my boss, "I think I need a drawing package." He said, "You better use it." So I made the solid target system without a drawing package. And my first drawing was my solid target. That's on YouTube too. People want to see the making of that as well. But yeah, so 20 years of cyclotron engineer. It's interesting, but there's a lot of levels of radiation. I mean,
so what are the researchers like your boss and the people who are using these solid target packages? What are they discovering? If that's a new technology, what's that?
It's not necessarily a new technology. It's just one that's expensive. If you want to put one on a machine, it's about $1 million. So I built it for just me being at work. But from that, I was going to talk about some. I made this because when you hit solid target, you have a longer lived isotopes. So one of the good ones in the world was carbon 64. So to make that, I had to get a gold disc. I had to learn how to electroplate nickel 64, which is like $3,000 for 0.1 of a gram or something, and plate that onto the gold and make this go into my solid targets and hit by the protons. And I did that. And
sorry. So you got a gold disc that's got a copper tiny.
It's I had to make an electroplating device. To the chemist would make up a solution, and we plated the nickel 64 onto the gold.
Nickel onto the gold.
Now, when you fire protons of nickel 64, you form copper 64, which has got a half-life of 14 hours. So you can ship it around the state, and so it's got certain. Every radiation comes in like alphas and betas, different emitters as well. So that's a good one for. Scientists can't do anything until you've made the product available for them. So the product idea was to make it and make it available. So yes, we've shipped it over east to Anstow and that because they shut their Lucas Heights one down. So we end up there was other ones, zirconia. There's quite a list, but some of the work I just did with the CSIRO, which I wasn't really totally happy about, was because it's all nanoparticles now, and nanoparticles like in your sun cream, they reckon that has a detrimental effect. So they wanted to radiate nanoparticles. So I had to make this powdered disc holding system to radiate that, which is quite dangerous when you think if that burst, it'd fill the whole room up with these radioactive nanoparticles. Lucky enough it didn't burst, and we're doing current work now for CSIRO. But I've done a liquid target design. I've done quite a few different designs, but my latest solid target design I have 3D printed metal. So it's all about cooling and getting the water in and out. And you just couldn't make this device without 3D printing it. So we had little fins inside it and that. So we've printed it out of silver, and we did a paper on that, Son and I. And that's just, I get offers all around the world now to talk at different conferences, but it's not my thing. I'm not really interested. I just did it because I can. And it's good for humanity as well. So that's the radioisotopes.
Yeah.
And also, it sounds crazy because most people, I don't talk about my X-day job, because people think I'm crazy anyway. Or like I'm a genius. They say, "Dad, you're a genius." I don't like being called a genius because I don't consider myself that. I'm just a creative with an inventive mind, with hand skills that I've developed myself, That's a lot of people who are sort of geniuses are focused on one point. They'll invent electricity. Well, Tesla was a genius in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a little admiration for Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla's a vibration man. So
he was on my shoe bike. It says Tesla's quote. If you understand the universe and understand vibration.
Yeah. Can you teach us more about what Tesla discovered?
Well, there's too many things. He discovered so much. He was like a gift for the planet, and he was shut down by the corporations.
Okay, can we lead into that one? Because that was actually a couple of things that you opened up a few moments ago. A long time ago, you said in this conversation, earlier in this conversation, you said something about be careful with words and the words being spells, and I'm familiar with that That's warning
good.
that you've given there. Then you also have shared a little idea about an overarching something that may or may not be happening. What would you like to share or impart or warn someone about based on what you're observing going on with words and the bigger world at the moment?
Yes, well, we have minds, and our minds can be brainwashed, and the powers that be have plenty of time to work out a system that will benefit them more than benefit us. So I would just encourage anyone to not be necessarily told as in television, to go do their own sort of research off on the side, and that can get everything you read, who wrote that, that's where believing, questioning everything. But you've got to leave your mind open, but that it doesn't absorb your life, because a lot of people who do look away from the television can be just obsessed with that, and they can be controlling themselves, because a lot of what's put in front of us is fear-based. Fear is not real.
Mm-hmm.
So when you break down fear in every aspect, where you might want to do something, or you might not agree with it, or make the change, really think down what is it. It's probably your fear of the unknown. Now, to sit in the light and go with no fear, and especially when you've got a mortgage and you've got children and friends as well, because what's happening at the moment in the world now is there's definitely a lot of divide happening, where I believe that the general humans, we all come from a place of love. It's just it's questioning the authorities, what they say to you. So I would not necessarily trust the authorities and what they're saying, because especially when it comes to invasion of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally, for my daughter and myself, I left my job because I didn't want to be invaded in my body. It could be many reasons, for me not to have done that. It's very political. And what I don't like is
it's really hard.
I don't like division. Political. I don't like division.
Yeah.
I think I just like love, and I think we should need to talk about what's going on at the moment, because it is causing division and fear.
A big part of why I wanted to start creating this podcast and this content was I just recognized how much. That's the dark beer.
I'm all right. Like I said, I don't like alcohol. I just drink it anyway.
I just recognized how much fear-based content I was consuming. And every time I open up the bloody device that connects me with the world, it doesn't matter which freaking button I press. All of them take me to something that wants to manipulate me in some way, or has some agenda. It wants to fucking sell me shoes, or it wants to tell me how cool this thing is, or even the ones that are attempting to dispel the lies that are going on there. And even if they are, it's just fighting the fear.
It's draining. It's no good for you. It's
draining.
It's no good for humanity, and there is a way out of it. The way out of it is to break away from it. 2 years ago, I turned my TV off. I was addicted to TV. I watched it all the time. I had Foxtel for years. Got rid of Foxtel just before this kicked off. Then I got rid of TV. But the big one is the radio. You jump in your car. We'll jump in the car, and the radio goes, and they've got news break, and then news breaks in between news breaks.
Well, that's why I want to create this, because I would rather that someone's... I would rather... I mean, and there's so many podcasts out there that I love, and I would rather that people are able to just tune into a conversation and hear about someone who's doing cool stuff.
That's what you're doing. You can choose your vision. You can create your vision, or what you listen to as well.
Yeah.
Than being told.
Yeah.
You know, and being open to listen to the right people.
Yeah.
You know, we're not here to preach to others and tell people what to do, but you can plant seeds of thought into their mind, and then it's up to them to, you know. I class myself as an inquisitive person, I always have.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know how things work. I want to know how things are done.
Yeah.
Like years ago when I guess when September 11th happened, I thought that doesn't seem right in mine. So I started researching, and I just got my first computer was at work. And
did you ever see that website Hunt Boeing?
No.
Oh fuck! That was so good. That was so good, man. I'm the same in that front. Like I just question a little bit. That's all. Just question just a little bit.
If it doesn't seem right,
I used to be really a very naive Christian, right? And then after I came off that, and even before I came off that, I just started to question a little bit, because some narratives and some stories seem to be so strongly forced down your throat that I'm just like, why do you have to put so much emphasis on this if it's just true? Have you heard that expression that the truth is like a lion? There's no need to defend it. Just let it out. It'll fucking defend itself, right? Like,
exactly.
You know, it's just
truth always comes out, and if it's people sitting in the truth,
just leave it. Just
you can tell people that sit in the truth and people that don't. The people that sit in the truth just they shine because if you've got something to hide, it's hard to hide it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've got nothing to hide. I am who I am, and I'm.
So, but my medias, my social medias has taken me to a place now where I'm just like, all right, I'm a bit suspicious that maybe I shouldn't just swallow all the stories hook, line, and sinker. But all that my medias now are is, well, my Facebook is just dead boring. But then like my Twitter is just all the people who are questioning, right? Which is still disorientating for me, because everything
takes a lot of time up too.
Everything that now I know nothing about anything. There's no topic that I can say anything about. Like,
but you don't really need to. But when they come for you, injecting things into your body, you can't just ignore it. That's an invasion. So maybe it's worth knowing a little bit more what's going on. Yeah. You know, it's just a touchy subject, and I just wish it never happened to us, but it's happened, and it's affecting our society. I feel sorry for small businesses and that seem to be closing their doors, and the truth not being given to us in the media of the detrimental effect that it has on individuals. You know,
I feel really bad for our inability to actually be able to have meaningful conversations about this in any way.
Yeah,
because
that's part of the plan, though, isn't it? They don't want people to talk, divide, conquer.
Yeah, this is like Orwellian, but I don't actually feel like I have the capability to use a string of words to say anything sensible, which is really alarming because it means that I can't really hold my position. Mm-hmm. Because the moment I open up my mouth, I'll either say something stupid because I'm undereducated, which is fair. I don't know enough about the topic. I'll either say something stupid because I don't know enough about the topic, or I'll say something which everyone has been trained the response for. Yeah. Right. Yep. So the moment I open up my mouth, everybody will respond in an exactly predictable way, and that'll be the end of the conversation.
Well, it's a shame, because we need to talk. It's all about communication. It's all about...
It's hard, though.
It's really difficult. Especially with the swims. The swims are broken up now in the morning because, you know, jabbed and unjabbed people. And because of people...
The what?
The jabbed and unjabbed
people. The swims?
The swims in the morning. There was like...
Oh my gosh!
It's been going for 4 years, so this only been happening the last 2 years. So obviously, people being around people who are jabbed and unjabbed has an effect. And
we're so tribal at the moment. It's us versus them.
This is where we got to talk. We got to. It's a hard one. It really is, because I think the people who I just call them the Mafia. I don't want to say 5,000 years or 200 years. I just say
the Mafia.
Mafia, evil intent. It's easier. There's them and us, but there's more of us, and we love and we trust. And we just want to live a simple life. We just want things, and the thing is quite nice. Life is pretty good at the moment, but they're making it harder for us. I don't want to spend the whole night talking about this, because it's a big subject.
Mm.
So.
I don't know where we should lean into a little bit more there, or not lean into that.
No, because we could spend all night talking about that.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
It's
fun. Come to my house on a Tuesday night and we'll talk about
it. I'll share one bit of research that I did recently, and if you know anything here that's more accurate, please correct me at any point in time. And it just points out like what we've done. It just points out our approaches to what we've done, and I just want to say this is what we've done, and then here's some some things to consider. A bit of this came from because my brother is a nurse, and he got really upset at me for not wanting to be pro what's going on in Australia. In the event that this one day becomes a conversation that's listened by non-Australians at another time, Australia was we were extremely, in WA,
I've been here.
we were extremely yes sir in it. We were very compliant, very compliant.
And they know this.
Yeah, and the government's come down really hard in terms of practically every job requires you to demonstrate with government evidence that you've been double or triple vaccinated, and the milestones keep creeping as well. First you have to be double vaccinated, now you have to be triple vaccinated, and you have to demonstrate this to get just about any job. You have to demonstrate this to go to a coffee shop, to go to a bar, and it's really rigorously checked.
I left my job because of it. I'm the only engineer in the state on the cyclotron. It's $20,000 fine if I go to work. It's a bit weird.
So here's my conspiratorial sentences. So and it's nice because the numbers are easy here. And it's more than this now as well. But Australia has given $5 billion directly to Pfizer. So we've given $5 billion directly. We've essentially just taken money from all the taxpayers in Australia, and we gave one company $5 billion
It's got a bad track record, by the way.
Huge, yeah, but doesn't matter. Forget that part. The point is, we gave them $5 billion, and they gave us back a product. Meanwhile, one of the things that we always say, is we've got to help the nurses. There are 500,000 registered nurses in Australia, so it's nice because it's also on the 5. And you could say that the average salary of a registered nurse, because most of them are only part-time employed, but generously we could say the average salary is 50,000. So at $5 billion that we gave to Pfizer, we could have given each of those nurses a $100,000 pay rise. a $10,000 pay rise, or we could have employed another 100,000 nurses, me. So we could have gone from 500 to 600,000 nurses, or we could have gone from a 50K, 20% up to a 60K salary, right? That's significant numbers, right?
And looked at medicine that already exists.
Sorry?
And looked at medicine that already exists and employed the nurses.
There's so many other things there, but it's just if you look at the story's always this is how the situation needs to be because the nurses are too tight. It's just man, we just spent so much money on not nurses, right? And then unfortunately, the other sad thing to consider is that all hospital systems are essentially designed like 5-star hotels that want to be at 90% capacity all the time. That's the only way that the hospital makes money. Is if a hospital is not at 90% capacity, then a hospital is not a profitable entity. So hospitals are always designed to flog out their nurses. That's actually the design imperative. So pre any condition, and this is the other one, they've always been we can't let our hospital systems collapse. The hospital systems are always on the verge of collapse. That's the only way that they function. They must be like that, because if they're not on the verge of collapse, they're not a profitable entity. And so that's why forever nurses have always been jobs are hard and you need to have more hospitals, you need to have more nurses. It doesn't actually matter how many more hospitals and nurses you put in, because the system designs it for them to just be flogged out to death, right? Just flog them, just flog them out. So it's really hard. It's that's why I don't know what the solution is, but I just see how so quickly you hit dead ends in every end, because just we could have employed a heap more nurses, but you'd still flog them to death because that's what the system wants to do to them. Well, we could have paid them more so their living conditions are better. And it's just sure, then you'll have more nurses come in, but you just keep hitting the same dead ends in every direction if you follow any of the current processes that we're following. And the only thing that happens in this current process that's objective is that a very large amount of money moves into the hands of Pfizer.
Yeah, it was. Look, money is a frequency, and it can control societies and meet agendas. And we all know it doesn't really work. So let's say I had this idea that cap what someone on this planet can have. If you've got, say, 500 million or even $1 billion. So if someone's got trillion, just bring it down to $1 billion. Or 500 million, you can't complain. Keep your super yacht, but they can never go any higher than a certain amount that we're capping the world.
I guess we try and do this in sports clubs.
It's just because the problem is that person who's got 5 minutes can just keep getting trillions and trillions, and also with the shareholders.
Like Elon Musk is actually on this trajectory at the moment. He's actually
they just cap what one human can have on this planet. That's just a simple idea, just to try and keep the system working. But it's destined to crash soon. Anyway, I think my prediction in a year's time, this fiat currency is going to crash. So, but I'm not going to get into that either.
So buy Bitcoin.
Well, where did that come from as well? Digital currency. I'm not sure about digital currency. I like the barter system. I can sell my glasses. I make these glasses, and I've swapped them for doing things, but we can't all do that. I don't know what the true answer is, but I just know we come from a place of love. If the world was run on truth, oh my God, what a world we live in. If we could just trust what we hear on television, or trust everything that everyone says, what a world that'd be. Truth.
How do we create that?
Well, you got to bring down the system that's there now, and I guess a collective consciousness of awakeness of what is happening in the world is
Why
a
does the
good
system
start.
want to defend itself so much? Like,
I think it's driven by AI now. I think from my research, it went down when you follow the money trail. And other people, it comes down to 2 companies. I think BlackRock and Vanguard.
Yep.
2 companies, right? So they exist. That you follow the money trail, it ends up at them. Who owns them? We don't really fully know. I've looked at the boards and that. No, but I believe at the center on the table is AI. AI is driving this through your phone, what you're looking at, and it's controlling. It knows the numbers, who's awake, who's not. So how we're going to break the AI? I don't know. It comes into consciousness. It can come into frequencies as well. I'm hoping that a collective consciousness and a frequency can awake or change the planet. But I really don't know.
what about the kind of unplug from the matrix? Because then as an
Break
artist,
away as much as you can. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've got a machine at home that makes water. Very brilliant. I recommend it for anything. Be in control of what you're drinking. Water is a very important thing in your life, okay? You've got food, water. Water is very important. But if your taps stop, well, what's in your tap for a start? Are they poisonous? I don't know. How about just taking that question away? So I got this water machine that makes it out of the air. Quite expensive, but I think if they were cheap, I'd make it for the whole world because it just runs on condensation.
Mm-hmm.
But the water also goes through a process of UV lights and goes through a stack of rocks and goes through RO. So I've got constant water at my house now. It's amazing. It's made in my house. So water's a big one. I also added solar panels to that. So from the sunlight and air, I produce water. That's really important. So water and food. Where do you get your food from? What are you eating? What happens if it goes? You've got to look at that. So if you can look at buying from local growers, get in it. Like there's plenty of that around there now. And being control of your food and your water and in your environment, which should be in your house. Do you have a water tank in there? Can you put solar panels in there? So, because we do rely, as much as we think we might be individuals on this planet, we do rely on the system feeding us. So we can't bitch about it too much unless we pull away. But then you've got your rates and you can reduce your bills, but do you own your land?
You could also solve your food and water issue with just fat stacks of cash. Like if you got enough fat stacks of cash, you can always ensure that you've
really. If the water stops off, money will mean nothing. If money drops off, no.
Well, the price of water will just go up. You'll just have mega inflation, which we're having all the time. Actually, we're having mega inflation for everything all the time.
What happened? You got to have a backup. If the water is poisoned, some poisons that thing, so your taps don't work. Then you're relying either if you've got a water tank, is that filtered, or you go to the shops to get water. You're not going to get water from the shops. It's just going to be ripped off the shelves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
same way
if I can say to anyone, just look at your water. Look at your water.
Yeah.
You can get a water tank on your house. Every house should come with a water tank. Every house should come with solar. They don't want that. They want to take the money off us and control us. It's all about control.
In the year 2000, we were going through the Y2K bug.
Yeah, and I got into that. Scary.
Yeah, the Y2K bug, and that
fear.
That was the fear thing of the time. And my mum and dad did some doomsday prepping for the Y2K bug, and they bought some water, and they put it in the shed, right? And they bought a little bit of water and they put it in the shed, and then nothing happened of significance. That the water kept going, and then 5 years later, I was rummaging around the shed, and I was like, why do we have this water in here? And they're like, oh, we got that for the Y2K prep. And I was like, oh.
How was it stored though? Was it
no,
Plastic bottles.
It was like 48 small bottles of water, and I was like, I was like 16 at the time, and I looked at it and I was like, this was your prep, right? Like, you bought like 10 liters of water and put it in the shed. Like, what were you know, if things actually had happened, what do you think that was going to do? Like, you're going to drink that water in 2 days, right? Like,
well, from eBay you can buy a life straw now. I've got a life straw.
Oh yeah.
It's like a drinking bottle. Yeah, and you can drink anything you want out of it, and try it. Get it prepared. Drink your pool water. Drink a little bit out of it. There's things you can prep. You can boil these little tin. Everything's available in that now. Yeah. But water is an important one, right? Mm-hmm. We all know you can sort of go out with food. Well, we can't go without water. You dry up. Yeah. But at least your parents did that. Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's silly if they don't have at least 3 months of the food at their house. So some rice and that. I mean, I went to Costco, bought a few things, just have it there just in case. I don't touch it. It's just there. Yeah. After the rounds of pandemic, I got to a state where I was living in a beautiful house with a beautiful partner, and I was like, bring it. Like, bring it on. You can bring on fucking anything. And like, I'm with a person that I love, in a house that I love, in a neighborhood that I love. I'm going to be fine, right? Like, I'm not only going to be fine, I'm going to have a good time. Well, right? First of all, don't fear the virus. The percentages tell you it's not to fear anyway. Yeah, that's also been a really interesting one for me for this whole thing. Well, I mean, I already shared earlier, like, I'm headstrong, and in my headstrongness with my diet and my gut and my metabolism and my fitness. Even though I do exercise, I'm active. I kite surf a lot. I surf. That's good. Yeah, so I'm active a lot. I'm actually active a lot. And the main way that I move myself around these days is an electric unicycle as well. But anyway, that's another thing. You're onto it. So I'm moving around and I'm active a lot. But underneath that, I think I am like really. I've got a really strong belief in my body. Mm-hmm. And I've observed some people who don't have that for different reasons. Like, you know, I was raised by parents, like, and you also said that this is, you know, vibration, reincarnation, whatever word we want to use. My parents are healthy, you know, physically healthy, no ailments in the family, slim, right? And, you know, we got a flu and it was just like, here's a cup of tea, get over it, right? Like, you know, you're lucky if you got a cup of tea. And we just got over things very quickly, like, and nothing was to be feared, right? You know, if I banged up myself really badly and I was bleeding, you just rinse it and you just carry on with your day. And so that was the kind of relationship that I developed with injuries and illness. It was just like, oh, it's a bit unpleasant, but whatever, like, you know, we'll just move past it and it'll be gone in a second. And I fully acknowledge that I'm really lucky in that front to come from good health stock. But at the start of this, and so when the pandemic started, I was just totally of the, like, I really don't care. Like, you know, why is everybody talking about this thing? Like, I really didn't understand at the start. I was like, why? You got an immune system. Obviously, immune system is working quite well. Yeah, immune system's working well. I so much about that in the last 2 years. Yeah, I was like, why are we talking about this thing so much? Can we just continue on with our lives? And it just became more and more the centerpiece. And then obviously, then I started to, like, empathize a little bit more with people whose mindsets have been so different for their whole life, because, you know, their parents had a whole bunch of illnesses and they were born with chronic illnesses, and, you know, they spend half their lives in and out of hospitals, and they've got all these undiagnosed, untreatable, this thing, that thing, the other, that kind of rules their lives. And then now there's this thing comes along that's going to make you sick. Like, it's fucking a problem, right? Like, and, you know, and that was just so hard to observe how differently we all were in this thing based on our, like, experience. And it's so divisive as well, because it made me like, I really wanted to be, like, compassionate and empathetic, but at the same time I was like, we're doing a whole bunch of crazy things right now, and I'm not really sure if any of these crazy things are at all logical in any way, but they're going on anyway, and I can't say anything. I'll just kind of, like, sit here and wait for a while. Yeah, I'm still waiting. Well, yeah, well, I decided to at least have this next year off, just because I think a lot of stuff's happening this year. Just let it settle down, because the truth will come out anyways. It seems to be coming out now. If this was bad, like I predicted it to be, then you'll see it's bad. But does the truth come out? Well, truth coming out like people are falling off perch and that sort of thing, and link.
Yeah, but like, will we like
Truth coming out to myself, who's been looking at it. Truth,
okay, truth will come to someone who's looking for it.
Yeah, but like the footy are now talking about the footy players dropping, and people are dropping around. There's so many heart attacks now. It's never happened before, so you can sort of put one and two together, mate. That this is part of that. It's such a touchy subject. That again, come from a place of love. My advice is to avoid it if you can. It's very difficult, and find unity amongst your friends and try and if you can.
Let's go back to coming from a place from love then. Let's just go.
And unity. Unity, that's why I'm going to the beach now. It's just so nice having people to talk to. And in the environment too, you're not on drugs. You're not drinking. You're actually at your purest self. And you're getting out of the bed it was cold and it was raining this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Everything says don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
By doing that, how that can improve your life is just unbelievable. And from learning in the last couple of years about the immune system and about vitamin D, the sunlight, about light refraction, light. Vitamin D is very powerful. And they're talking about staring into the sun in the mornings too, how that light goes into your eyes is meant to be good for you as well. And learning.
I practiced some sun staring for a while.
Yeah, well, this is all new to me, and I got sick the other week, a couple of weeks back from, you could say it was COVID, you could say whatever, but I was prepped for it. I had my zincs and had my medicine ready to go, and I got over it. But I'm glad I didn't, my body wasn't invaded to try and based on fear to, yeah, like I said, we can talk all night about this one, I'm sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's coming from fear, which like I can see how much I come from fear, and again, part of the reason for wanting to create this. There's a whole other fresh cider that I opened there for you. Just there, yeah. So much of the reason that I wanted to create this was to just be able to talk about things talk to people about things, doing things that they love, right? Yes. And I've got other projects that I want to do as well that I'm just excited by, that I'd like to do just because I think that'd be cool, really cool. And
what sort of projects you can share with us now, or want to wait?
I did want to talk about it after the show, but let's talk about it now. The one that I'm most eagerly following. So this podcast is called Art on Fire. Made up that name, kind of.
Feels about with the Burning Man.
Yeah, it's kind of inspired by burning things. It's got lots of metaphorical meanings if you want it. Fire and transitoriness. And temporariness.
That's a great name. Yeah.
Fire's hot, so it's like hot art. It's cool. It's hot. Like it's in thing at the moment. So I don't know. I like the name. I thought it was fun. Then as soon as I started the podcast and I started meeting different guests and hanging out with different guests, one of the things that came to my awareness is that next year in 2023 in April, on the 20th of April, do you know what's happening? Exmouth, full eclipse. Did you know about that?
No.
Yeah, so full eclipse is coming to Exmouth.
Okay.
It'll be 101 years after the eclipse that was sighted near Exmouth that actually brought in, that found the final needed piece of evidence for Einstein's theory of relativity, because he had a bunch of miss eclipses for his photography sessions, including other things. But anyway, so it's kind of cool. It's a centennial for Einstein's photo, and it's happening in Exmouth, and they don't happen all that often. And this podcast is interviewing lots of people who run events and just create cool things at events. And I was like, well, if a group of humans are going to put together a fucking cool event up there that touches on everything, that touches on the astrology, astronomy, the physics, the science, the just fucking let's go party and do some acid, like the whole works, right? If everyone who is interested in going to see that phenomena happen, I feel like the group of people that I'll be talking to are the group of people who might be able to create an event that's inclusive and caters for all of those types and allows for a crossing of those types as well. Because then, the physicist and the astrologer and the astronomer and the yogic person who will come because of the Dalai Lama sent them, right? Like they'll all be able to hang out together in the same place at the same time, as well as the people who are partying all night long to just witness this like crazy phenomena, right? And like, I don't know, I'm excited by the idea of documenting it, talking to the people who are going to be creating it, having maybe some part in the creation of it. Not really sure just yet. So I guess this is going to be the bonus question to talk about after the show. It's what I've been doing with people, talking about them after the show. If you were to create one part of a thing that contributed to an eclipse event in Exmouth. Have you been to Exmouth?
Yeah, I went there once, drove there, said I'd never do it again because it's a long drive, but love the place.
Yeah, it's long.
But yeah, diving, the fish, the life in the ocean is amazing.
The life in the ocean is amazing. The life on the land is fucking hard.
Wind's a bit much.
Depends on the time of the year. I think April won't be too bad because it's
what a place though. I mean, for Turquoise Bay and that stuff.
Yeah, the area is amazing, but it's a harsh landscape. So, and that's why I asked. So you know it's a harsh landscape. You know it's got great oceans. And I don't know what your understanding of eclipses are, or not understanding what your feeling about eclipses are. This is a total eclipse. It'll happen at like midday, essentially like 11:52. How would you want such a phenomena or event to be experienced if you could choreograph something up there?
Well, I'm big time on the burn principles, so I'd have to probably incorporate that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this probably would be based on money in that as well, so that hurts me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, art's a nice thing that that people might have to be related to the event, but something that brings unity amongst the people out there. I know people who went to the last one that was over in America, I think it was. Or
there was one in Patagonia that I think became a largely non-event because it happened in the COVID times, and then the one before that was in America somewhere.
Yeah, so my friends went to that and they reckon it was amazing. It was just I think the people that go to the event, makes it special too.
I hear it's fucking insane.
Yeah,
I hear
about 5 or 6 people went there and they just blew their minds. I don't know why, if it was just the people or what's just going on, or the collective of people who were there because they're obviously there for the same sort of reason. I mean,
it's a phenomena though. You're observing a ridiculous phenomena that's incredibly unlikely. It doesn't happen very frequently.
A lot of things don't happen all the time, and it's just what you put your energy in is looking at that as being an event where, I could look along those lines as probably other. Look, I love the idea. I love if you're asking what I would do there personally, but my cymatics would be the thing. I'd say I could just set up a cymatics thing there, tent or something like that. Having my work and being there and explaining it is probably. It doesn't work with me not being or showing what's going on. So I could set up a live cymatics to the event or something, or that's personally, if that's what you're asking.
No, I was asking more just thank you. That's really cool. I like that as well. I was asking more what do you think would be the best way to celebrate that kind of phenomena? Because somewhere between 10 and 300,000 people will go up there.
Well, if you can get everyone, you've experienced the temple burns.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there last time it was held?
Yep.
3,000 or 1,500, whatever it was half the crowd. And because a burn, it's not like 1 minute of silence.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 20, 30 minutes that was amazing. That blew my mind. If you can get that many people being silent for the time,
that's what you'd want to see.
Well, that'd be nice.
Yeah,
I don't know how.
That's actually what I'd want as well. I'd love to build to this prep people for it. Prep everyone for it. Let them know, but somehow prep them for it, and then hold the silence and educate everyone to hold the silence, and it'll be tense,
magical,
because people will be uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable around each other silent. We're just always wanting to fucking fill the air with some noise that's coming out of our mouth. Right?
If you farted, you would have heard someone there. That was hard. Oh yeah,
it was just dead quiet.
That was Nisha's. Oh no, it wasn't Nisha's. That was Ronnie's.
Ronnie's. One, yeah. Yep.
That was beautiful setup. Guys that put the effort into those things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, cool.
I struggle with building something that I'm going to burn. I want people to keep seeing my stuff. So.
Yeah.
one of the ideas that Paul Holliday has from the Human Excellence Project, was an amazing ethos behind the whole thing, not based on money, was basically I forgot my track, I mentioned him then, but we were actually, the place was gifted some, there's a big story behind that, it was gifted some land, about 80 acres up in the hills, by someone who used to go down to the beach. His idea was, we had this land, built it like a burn community of 10 principles, teach people about the 10 principles, because there's some really good messages behind the Burning Man principles. And one of them was to build like an effigy, but have it for a year, so you can use it. Like the first blaze I went to, and they had that amazing winged swan, 2014, 15 it was. I forget my years now. I think it was 15. It was huge. It was massive. And it was a shame to burn it. The construction and put it. I understand burning something, but I think it just needs to be appreciated a bit more than just 7 days. I think so. If you had
I think you need to make something that you burn.
Yeah, maybe.
Unfortunately, most of the
burnouts in my car.
Yeah, most of the artwork's metal, so it's not as easy to torch.
I was going to shoot flames out of the shoe bike and also the horses, so that still might happen. So I'll have some flames. But I just like the idea of that, having it for a year, rather than just, and people can appreciate it for a year, then burn it. Still burn it, but just have it for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good concept.
Mm.
But, that's part of we don't earn anything, like those mandalas that the monks do. They're amazing. You've seen those.
Sand mandalas. Yeah.
It's just absolutely amazing. And they're just blown away.
Yeah. They destroy it the moment it's done.
Yeah, moment it's done.
Like, it's just like literally they just finish the last bit and they're just like, it's destroyed.
It's next level stuff, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I should have probably got cameras now. They've got a photo of it. They can put it on the wall. It's probably not destroyed that much.
Well, I think people film their whole processes now as well. I think Barack Obama got one when he became president. A whole bunch of monks flew over and did one in the White House for him, and he was just walking past it every day until it was done, and then it was gone.
It's amazing. Yeah, well, man. I've actually learned a bit from them. I've used imported the little Mandela, or the little the tubes of hand-beaten copper, and you run a stick on it. I do it when I do my somatics, make the patterns.
Yeah.
So there's not enough sand in one place. I can run one of them little vibrating things to put sand on the right place.
Yeah.
But that's what got me onto what they were doing. But yeah, amazing stuff.
Yep.
And we don't really own. That's what the part of the burning, same sort of thing. We don't really own anything. This is what's going on in the world now, I guess, is to work out what happened to me with my job, and that what's important to you, where are you, where you're sitting, and really, really think about that. What is it? What's your vices? And make a decision. Based on that. Because like my decision was, we're basically staying in position because of money. We need money. I need to stay here because of money. So then I realised, we'll take the money out of it. What's important to me? And this is what I've been refining now. It's definitely people. I'd go mad if I didn't. I constantly meet new people. I love meeting people. I love and I realised the benefits and offshoots of the hard work that I put into the creations I've done. It brings people to me, and what it does, it generally will strip them of most, like, won't tell me that they're a mechanical engineer or something. They won't tell me because they're a little, I'm not like Dave, but it's not really what I want. But if I strip them from like, wow, and they have ears to listen to what I'm saying. So I guess now that I'm a bit more spiritual and I'm slowing down a bit, I've got probably better things to say to people than I was 5 years ago.
How did you start to become a bit more spiritual?
Through Geezer. Yeah. Shaking my hands on the back of his car at a bush doof for about 3 years ago.
Yeah, cool.
I dated a girl that was actually quite spiritual, and they sort of talked about themselves. Imagine if David put his mind into that, because I put my mind 100% into whatever I tackle. And I put 100% into learnings, but I link things together. I mean, 7, I can just talk your head off about the 7. I wrote I've got a 7 book, 7 list sort of thing. I did an art called Savart, and I started but I left religion out of it. Christianity, big time into 7s. Muslims, big time into 7s. Left all that out of it, and just went through science, nature. One of the big ones I discovered was Frank Chester's Octahedron. It's a 7-sided platonic solid. Not platonic.
I watched that video, the like 2-hour video that Frank explains
Did
that
you
platonic
see the
solid.
7-minute video I've recently posted?
Yeah, I've seen your 7-minute video, but I also saw Frank's 2-minute video.
Frank's is amazing, and I love the guy.
Yeah, let's talk about let's talk about the Chestahedron from the very beginning. So there's platonic solids. What are they?
There's 5 of them. Again, I don't know what it was. My journey of sevens brought me to Frank, and it was a 7-sided hedron. What the hell's a hedron? You know, so I made them. When I see something, I make it and I can feel it. So I made it out of stainless steel, which is, I will be making them available for sale in the future if anyone's interested. But he would talk about the 5 platonic solids. What's a platonic solid? You know, it's where basically we're all vectors and that line up with each other to form a 3-dimensional shape.
Named after Plato?
Well, this Plato did put down, it goes back quite a bit of history, but it can go back to Plato, yes. But it can go back a bit further than that too. I think it's the icosahedron they haven't sort of found, because these appear in nature as well. The first one is...
each of these shapes, the platonic solids,
appear in nature.
They're shapes, they appear in nature.
Yes, I mean...
So different like crystals or different atoms or different things will organize themselves into those shapes, like a quartz crystal.
Which makes sense. Well, when you look at the first shape that's ever made from lines, when you get lines and you join lines again, you want to form a 3-dimensional shape. It's called a polyhedron. This one's called a platonic solid. The first one's called, they call it a tetrahedron. It's fire. Now, if you look at, get down to our existence and nuts and bolts, how we made tetrahedrons, we reckon we're made of miniature tetrahedrons everywhere. And I can go into the flower of life as well. I've drawn that. They say to understand the flower of life, you've got to draw it. And I've drawn it. And then I got into, I can digress on this one. I digress a fair bit. The next one is the cube. It's got 6 sides. Then you've got the 8 sides, octahedron. And then you've got the, I think it's 12 sides is the dodecahedron. Those 10 sides. I can't pick my sides. And then you've got the icosahedron. There's 5 of them. There's only 5 platonic solids. I've made all those in stainless steel as well, so I know a fair bit about them. But the good thing about the Chestahedron was discovered because Frank Chester was told there's no 7-sided shape.
And he was also in love with the number 7?
No, he wasn't actually. That's what brought me to it. Right?
Okay, yep.
I guess he is now.
Yeah.
But no, I found Frank because I was researching 7s, writing from my 7 list and came across this and what the hell's that? I could have lost it, but I got into it. And back then, he only had a couple of YouTube videos, and he's got a lot of videos. And he died of throat cancer. Some of his latest, his discoveries he's made.
Oh, he's passed away?
No, he was told to get his throat cut out, but no, he killed himself. I think part of it was from the blood of a 9-year-old person in Peru or something.
Don't go into that.
Everyone threw him all different things, and he also beat it through fighting it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't need to go too much in that. But Frank discovered this. He was told not to. There's no 7-sided shape. He said, well,
there's no 7-sided.
There was a 6 side and there was 8 side. Where's the 7?
Yeah.
Right. So then he went on his. He was a geometrician or something like that. He was retired from teaching geometry and art. He's an artist. And this is what he discovered this shape through art rather than science and maths, because he basically was found it quite hard. He's like, he's got bits of plasticine, put balls in it. That's how he originally found it. In the end, he put plasticine, put 7 balls in it, formed this shape. Then he straightened the edges, and he cast it. That Chestahedron appeared. So, I got this amazing shape, which happens like 3 kites and 4 pyramids. And the way I explain in my 7-minute video is that it's basically the tetrahedron opened up to the golden ratio. There's that golden ratio again. So the first shape you can ever make from lines is a tetrahedron, which they call fire.
A tetrahedron is also pyramid.
Yeah, pyramid. Yeah. So, but pyramids can come in many different shapes and sizes. The first shape with the triangle base. I'll lead into the reason why I say that. So the triangle base pyramid opened up to the golden ratio. So 1.61 forms a Chestahedron. He didn't know that. He's also found when you get a tetrahedron, another tetrahedron, and you twist it, in between that forms a Chestahedron. Plus he's found other ways. So he didn't invent it. It was always there, but he had to bring it to the surface for us to understand.
Yep.
Now, all the surface areas are the same. It's got 3 kites and a triangle. So it's a beautiful looking shape. But he's linked it to the heart. He's linked it to the earth. He's linked it to many things, which you would have seen through his videos.
Yeah.
So if I can recommend anyone, if you're bored, check out Frank Chester's work on YouTube. Absolutely amazing person, humble man as well.
I'll put a link in the show notes. He's got this 2-hour video where he shows how this shape that he stumbled upon, or that he
went
realized.
looking for because it was told it didn't exist, basically.
Yeah, he realized this shape and the way that the properties of the geometry that he's discovered are just fascinating.
But he's linked it to the heart. He says the heart's not a pump. It's I don't even want to use his words on this one. I can talk your head off about Chester because I just love it. And actually, the first Blaze I went to, there was like a 15-foot Chesterhedron there. And I was going, what's a 15-foot Chesterhedron doing at the Blazings for my first one? No one knows about this. I don't know if you're about Obi. You know Obi? You should have another guest you should get. He's amazing. Obi. Glenn, his name's Glenn. And he did the...
Glenn who?
I can't remember his last name.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'll find
him. He built the Starship, and he also the
the Star Wars Starship from Alliance. Yeah, okay,
well,
cool.
that was his design. He's amazing, and a lot of art pieces you'll see around Blazers. Obi, he's very humble.
Cool.
You've got to get him involved.
He's
cool.
The man. Yeah, cool.
Better than me, I don't even say.
Yeah, cool.
But I met him through one of my daughter's 3-year-old parties when he was DJing there, and we just hit it off. And this before Blaze came along, and he came to my house, and I showed him my Chesterhedron and stuff, and he rang me up stayed contact, and rang me up randomly a few years down the track. What's that shape you showed me? I was a Chesterhedron. So he built this Chesterhedron. And the first time I went to Blaze, you can jump inside it and everything. I was going, wow.
Oh, cool.
I didn't realise. I didn't even know it was at the Blaze. It was just like,
it
was linked from me, but
it
was just good to see.
Yeah.
Well, Frank Chester actually went to Burning Man a couple of years ago and built like a 50-foot one and was doing lectures and stuff. So.
Ah, cool.
But he's done so much for me. He's inverted it and made a vortex generator that he's done so much and learnt so much from that, as I have too. So it got me more deeper into sevens, and I just found it was quite powerful. 7.
There's something that you leaned on there, that going back to Einstein as well, that I find really fun, is like, and the world of math has this issue too, is like math can describe things and calculate things, but it can't discover or create new. So like
that's our job.
Yeah, you can use and so for anyone who's less mathematically minded, I guess there was like, before Einstein there was Newton, and you could do everything that was known through Newton's thinking with his equations, and it predicted the world really accurately. Like you could apply Newton, and you could work out where the stars were going to go, and you could work out what the ball would do when you threw it, and it was fantastic for heaps of things. But it had a couple of holes. But it doesn't matter how good you were at playing with Newton's rules, you could never discover what Einstein discovered by just playing with his equations. Like to get to Einstein, you needed a whole new way of thinking. And then once you got to that whole new way of thinking, you then described that way of thinking in math again, the same way that Newton described it. So Newton described what he observed in math, and then Einstein did it too. And so Frank Chester also applied art and creativity to discover something.
Well, that's what he said. Maths and science would never have discovered the Chesterhedron.
Yeah.
It was art that discovered it.
Yeah.
And then it was again, because it was told there's nothing like that. Now, what's amazing is the Chesterhedron also fits into every platonic solid. He uses the word, I think it's lawful or something. He uses quite a lot of words he used. I didn't know what they were, but I became more familiar. Like anything, if you like the flower of life, if you're interested in flower of life, draw it. Just draw it. Then you feel it.
Yeah, he actually talks about it. So the flower of life, the seed of life, for anyone who doesn't want to draw one, you can just draw it with a compass, and you just essentially just draw one circle with a compass, and then you just draw the next one starting at the perimeter, and then you draw circles wherever the lines cross.
Well, Frank Chester says if you look into his latest work, where he's meant to have died and he survived, and then he had this epiphany, and he's designed this thing called the Trinity. So it's like 3, can't even describe this shape. Have you seen the Trinity? Did you watch that in his video? And he's not even really sharing how we found that. But we watch his video on his lectures, and he talks about it. It unlocked every. There's other hadronic or platonics, not platonic, polyhedrons I call them. There's other ones that weren't like a 9-sided one, a 10-sided one. There's a lot. There's a lot of them that aren't on there. So he built this pyramid of imagine the top of the pyramid is a circle. Mm-hmm. The second part is 2 circles. The bottom side is 3 circles. And each one of those, because 1 360 per 5, the first one, alongside it, he'll put the hedrons. And on the right spot was a Chesterhedron. And then he listed it all. There's 19 of them. And from that, I think it says it's from a line and a curve. He's put them all into one shape and called it the Trinity. Now, I just can't say much more because I can't do Frank's word, but it's an amazing discovery that he's excited about. That's hard for me to even explain.
Yeah, I might have to Google this.
If you see how he breaks it down with his pyramid and that, you'll go, wow. So he led to that. But he's also done something where he got the flower of life and he's twisted it 15 degrees and it's caused like a vortex twist in it, which he says that the Octahedron is a transformation shape. Again, being a 7, another interesting thing about 7, if you get a circle, 360, you divide it by 1, it's 360, 2 is 180. But the only one that doesn't divide into a circle evenly is 7. It's 51.2, I can't remember exactly what it was, which happens to be the angle of the Great Pyramids as well. The Great Pyramids have got the golden ratio and a lot of mathematics hidden in the Great Pyramids. So there's just been so many, and now he's got teams of people working on his discovery where they're growing things instead of a normal pyramid, you put it grow under this. But so one of the things when Blaze was coming up, my frequency, I thought, well, I need to make an art piece. And I put in for an art piece. I actually got knocked back, but I made it anyway. That was my cube octahedron. So if Dave's going to make an infinity thing, it should be a chestahedron because I'm into 7s. But I thought, no, I need to go look and see if there's anything else. Now I learned about the cube octahedron from Buckminster Fuller. It's called the vector equilibrium. It's an amazing shape. It's just 8 triangles and 6 squares. But it's equilibrium. So every vector, every length of line is the same length and to the center is the same. So it's got 12 points coming from the center. In my 7-minute video, you can hear about that. So I thought, well, that's an amazing shape. So I made my cube octahedron infinity. But I thought this has got to fit into the chestahedron somehow. I actually emailed Frank Chester and said, how does a cube octahedron fit into the chestahedron? Never heard back until I started watching one of his latest videos down the track. I thought, oh my God, there it is at the golden ratio in the center of the chestahedron is the cube octahedron. And with the 12 points coming out of it, the Star of David, it's like it blew my mind. And, you know, just say I do things and there's more reason. It's not coincidence. That's just a little amazing thing in my own little world. Like, wow, it is inside there. It sits at the golden ratio in the center. And I wouldn't have known that until I built the cube octahedron, the vector equilibrium. I didn't know about it. Like everyone else, what's that? But when you build it and you know it, then you can see it. You can see it elsewhere.
Yeah.
He does a great little video. It goes for about 7 minutes, whatever, and they don't say anything. They go on a stage and they get the chestahedron out and they fold it out.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and then you'll see them fold the cube out of the center, which is the cube octahedron.
Yeah.
So it's quite amazing.
Yeah. For anyone who does listen to this, I'd also discovered Frank Chester because Dave shared his videos, and he's just a wonderful dude who's just discovered something that he's really wanting to share. And that's probably all I can say. You start watching him, and then the more that you watch him, the more you realize that he's actually discovered something really, really beautiful. It's hard to describe the value of what he's discovered. That's mine.
Yeah, I mean, what does anything mean?
Yeah,
it's just a matter of your interest in your existence and how you know. I just think it is a beautiful thing. And I love the story behind it all.
Yeah,
but it was a 7 that made me learn about that. What I did myself actually. Now understanding everything that I know about the hadrons and knowing about the chestahedron and loving the fact that it's the first shape tetrahedron open up to the golden ratio. I just love that because I'm big time in the golden ratio. So part of my spiritual awakening was 22nd December 2020 was a big day. All the stars aligned.
Yeah, I remember that. Being
so we all went down the beach and put our feet in the sand and had a moment of silence. And in that moment of silence, I thought, why don't I open the Great Pyramids up to the golden ratio? That makes sense. So the next day I did. I made a stainless steel. The pyramids have got a square base and they've got 4 sides. So I learned a lot about the pyramids when I was trying to draw it up. It's not equilateral triangles. It's got the golden ratio in it, and it's also got pi and phi. Golden ratio is called phi, PHI. So then I drew it up to scale to be exactly right because when the pyramids were covered in stone and what the actual heights were, and I went right through it. And then I opened that up to the golden ratio, and it formed a 9-sided polyhedron, which I happen to call the cryohedron. So I've got my own hedron out.
Yeah,
now,
cool.
and it's stainless steel, and it happens to spin on the table, and just a nice shape. What does it mean? It means nothing except for that's my little journey, and I've done that.
Yeah.
But hey, if everything's in energy, I might have energized the world. Who knows? So I was thinking about maybe making those as well, making them available for sale as well. But cryohedron. Yeah. Frank's got his one. I've got my one now.
Yeah.
But no, Frank's has been linked to the heart, and then mine's just an idea that if I can teach people about the golden ratio and the importance of that, then I think I've done something.
Yeah. Frank's linked his discovery of his that platonic solid to a whole bunch of other shapes, including the flower of life or the.
Again, when I started doing this, what's a flower of life? Who chooses that? But I fully understand the flower of life to the point where when I started drawing it and making it, I started looking at what's the petals of the flower of life, and I came across this guy called Mitch Evans, friends of now on Facebook. He's a bit of a legend in the 70s and 80s. He worked out. He calls it the trion ray. So imagine one petal of the flower of life, right? Imagine that in 3 dimensions. So what he's done, it's got 3 strands on it. And when those 3 strands, when you contract and it makes it go fatter and wider, he's built all the platonic solids out of this, which gives them not flat edges, it gives them curved edges and stuff. And he's linked that. And I really think the trion ray, if anyone's hearing this, look up the trion ray, this Mitch Evans. I think that's really powerful. That fits more into our existence somehow. I don't know what else to say than that, but that's the level I got down to, drawing the flower of life and the trion ray.
It's hard to put these things into words. It's just like you can.
It is hard to describe.
Like, there's something really profound here, but I just don't quite know how to bridge this using.
So I just do it, make it, feel it, and move on. But take it to wherever I can. But I don't know how else to explain more than that. But I feel like people need to know that.
Yeah. I guess like for this kind of transference of knowledge, a verbal language just doesn't cut it.
It's hard
because you can really
I'm
only
using English language, but it's not even the true language.
Yeah,
the true language I've gotten back to is the Aboriginals in Tasmania. It's called Mugwai or something like that, and that's been linked to. I can't remember that country, but I've had these epiphanies lately, and I think was to learn the first language of us, because it's not. This has been manipulated. The English language was not always here. It's a great way to control people's minds by even the words that you're using. And a lot of things have got double meanings. I'm finding those double meanings are actually there for a reason. But yeah, I think they use more sounds, and there's animals. How do they talk? We even make noises and that, but we've got this instinct in us somehow. I think that's been taken away from us as humans. Could be the calcifying of the pineal gland through fluorides, who knows? But I think we've been put into a state of that we're just random, that we're built from an explosion, and questions, through religions or through it, we're basically put in a state of confusion, and no one knows who we are. But I believe the Mafia do, and they control, and they're using it to control us.
Have you read any Jay-Z Knight?
Hey,
have you read any Jay-Z Knight?
No, I actually don't read that much, to be honest. I'd say that, but I look a lot of Google and do a lot of more research and things. But I haven't read many books, and I just find my own little journey. But what about Jay-Z Knight?
I probably shouldn't get into it. It's a pretty crazy one. It's a book. It's a book written by some crazy American lady who reckons she channels some entity called Rumtha, but it has a lot about pineal gland and the way the glandular system works and how it converts vibrations into electromagnetic electropatterns through the brains, and then how that brain converts that into glandular chemical things, and then that the glands release and discrete hormones around the body to produce a feeling that's going on in the mind. Because then once you feel it, you then are feeling the vibe that you're feeling the vibe, right?
Joe Dispenza goes into that in the back, and being able to stimulate your pineal gland through clearing your chakras. And 7 chakras. I didn't know if that exists, but yes. And then when you break that into vibration, they've got little hairs on your pineal gland. You can vibrate those, can cause melatonin and certain things. But yes. I don't know if that ties in what you were saying, but it seems very similar.
Yeah, I remember reading it, and it had this one chapter called The Science of Knowing, where it talked about like how a thought which a thought is a vibration when it enters you.
It is a vibration.
Yeah, but even that's right. So everything's a vibration. But this thing points out the idea that a thought first comes into you as a vibration and is received as a vibration and then turned into an electrical signal.
I don't even know if the thought is a vibration. Maybe that's how we create. That's just using the things around us. And
I was saying. Anyway, that book's called the White Book. A crazy person in the park introduced it to me, and I read it and I found it profound. I realized it was some like deep knowledge, and I still struggle to know what to do with it.
Some people have really worked out spend their lives thinking about our existence and that. But
the whole idea of channeling things is pretty crazy as well. Like, so I mean, like Chester, but and also when you were describing some of the art things that you've created as well, it's like the urge is just coming out of you in some regards. It's just like you didn't think it up. If you didn't, wouldn't be anything new, wouldn't be anything that creative or original in the first place. Like, it could still be of value, not to totally dismiss the logical things. But like the creative thing seems to just come from something else. Right? It's just like something else, and somehow you're this tool that is able to get the thing out of you.
Imagine if we do have a creator, which I call it, right? And he wants to progress as an advancement. I think that's our nature. That's why we're here. If we didn't, we probably wouldn't be here if this thought processing was actually a real thing. Wouldn't I be quite handy for him? Because I can weld, machine, fabricate, I can do and think outside the box, and I'm not linked to any sort of particular thought pattern. So I've got to, with that understanding, I've just got to be free and just go with whatever happens in front of me and not have any fears in that. So I think if I do that, then if it has got a higher purpose it wants to show in this physical realm we're in, then maybe I've got a chance to make that. And I don't want any notoriety. I don't want to be famous. I don't want anything but just to be me and create. But what I've learnt from this journey as well is I didn't want to ever be labelled as an artist. But remember, artist is just a word. It's a frequency. What does it actually mean? It actually means, I think, of the essence of existence. The essence of existence is to create, which art is created because you, as an artist, you're thinking of something new. You are thinking of something new. And then it got to even the thought of, we probably don't even need to do what I do, is bring it out and show people. You just need to think it. But also, I think to say it. Saying it is a big thing because you're bringing it out to the universe. I heard this great research that is, if you want something to manifest, is to say it 3 times. Say it out aloud. We say things twice, but to actually say it the 3rd time is going a bit far. But if you had the full intent of it, it can happen. And I tested that. When I lost my job and I wanted to, I saw my number plates in my car. I suppose I don't mind telling the story. But I had number plates in my car when I was younger, and just the number Q on a plate. And the Q, just a single letter Q, I paid $200 for it in 1992, whatever. And I thought, well, I'll sell that. I won't sell my car because I lost my car, but I'll sell my plates, put it up there. And I had a bit of interest, asked for a bit of money for it because I think it's worth a fair bit because it's quite rare. But I had 2 people sort of fighting over it. And I thought, well, I'm going to sell my plates today. I was in bed. I said it 3 times. It's quite ridiculous. I said, I'm going to sell my plates today for $140,000. I'm going to sell my plates today for $140,000. I am going to sell my plates today for $140,000. Guess what?
140 grand.
Sold my plates that day, $140,000.
Yeah.
Now, I had 2 people interested, and I just put it out to message the other guy. You can have it for $140. He was in England. Then my phone rang, and it was a guy I hadn't heard from 1 month ago. I was still in bed, didn't get out of bed, and he rang me. It was Baja. I'm interested in your plates. I said, are you the same? What's going on here? Just want to give that example. And now I'm free to think and do and want and sit in the light and go with my gut because I got a bit of leeway. But that wouldn't happen if I stayed at the hospital and I lived in that state of fear. Just want to give that out to people. And then since I've heard that, I've heard some other respectful people that I've listened to say the same thing. I think you manifest it because you got something in your mind. It's in your mind, but you bring it out. I think another little theory I want to probably, because we're closing up soon, is that part of my study of existence is I wanted to start looking at sleep. We just go to sleep. It's called sleep. It's a bit weird to me.
It's pretty weird.
It's like if I said to you, sleep didn't exist. Can you go over and shut yourself off for 8 hours? You go, no, and a lion's going to eat me. I'm going to shut myself off. I'm going to stay awake. So they say that rejuvenate your cells and that sort of stuff. But remember, we're being lied to by the mafia. So I'm thinking, okay, I better look at that again. So I studied the sleep, right? And so there's 4 stages of sleep. I'm going, dreaming, REM. No. I'm talking about the 4th state of sleep, which happens to be, they call it the godly state. And it's what it is you bring your vibrational level down below 4 hertz. So 4 hertz to 0.
Which part of your vibrational level?
It's your thought patterns, your mind. You can go in alpha, beta sort of states.
Yep.
But then you have to get to the 4th state of sleep. And if you don't do that, you die. You don't do this, you die. You might have been sleeping and you had dreams and when you wake up, you're still groggy. But I've tested it. If you hit the 4th state of sleep, it could take 3 hours, 2 hours. Bang, I'm awake. Because I know I've downloaded my information that I've gathered today. Because we have got 5 senses gathering all the information in this dream state, which we are now as a human existent experience. Now, our purpose is to gather information, create, and then download it to central, which I call it, when you're in your sleep patterns. And they've done ECGs on people on the 4th state of sleep, and your mind, there's all this activity. Because remember, on a radio station, it's a fixed frequency, or a TV station, it's still got all the information down there. But it's on a frequency. So I'm thinking that our purpose is to go during this awake period, gather as much information as we can, think outside the box, create. So then when you download it on your sleep, so-called sleep, 4th state of sleep, you're rewarded because that's going to be part of you tomorrow, part of everyone. And that's how humans' existence has advanced. That's just my little theory of adding a few things up.
I really like it. I've also pondered quite a bit about how the AI, Internet of Things, and the cloud mimic human experience, and the way that they move information from one place to another. Noel Nanup, who's an Aboriginal elder, told me about the Aboriginal perspective of things.
They know the secrets.
Fuck, man, when he was telling me this, I was like, man, that's what the fucking cloud is doing. It's just copying exactly what you just said in like cloud computing, cloud technology.
Their dream time and their stories explains existence.
Yeah, but the way that you've just described this at the moment as well, it also sounds like the we could be the AI in that story, like you and I as this organic matter. Yep, just gathering information and just upload it to the cloud every night. And the it that you described is just like sitting on the other end, just being like, oh yeah, here's my next batch data. Let's take a look at this.
Well, that's where I'd say that I'm a god, you're a god, we are all gods, and we've created existence through the manifestation of thought, downloaded maybe asleep. This is paradise. Look at the water. Look at the sky. Look at the trees. What more do you want from this?
Yep.
This is it. Because this is it. I just called it it. Because we all say it's it. That's why it's a joke. We always say it. I always say to people, I've got a name for it. I've been thinking about it for a long time, and you'll love it when I say it. And I just said it. Because we say it all the time. And another one I say is like, once you get it, then you God it. Got it? God it.
Yeah.
God, it's a great word.
Yeah.
Once you get it, then you got it. Because the God is before the it.
Yeah.
So that got a bit profound there. So.
Yeah. That's good. We wanted a bit of profound to come out as much as possible. So
yeah, well, it's my thoughts and it's my perception. So people understand the word perception. Perception and perspective is two big, powerful words.
Perspective? You got some glasses. What kind of perspective do you get from these glasses?
Specs and perspective. Yeah, well, it's funny because I'm a creator and I like just doing things once, right? And I get a bit bored of it. But my idea was also, I used to watch all these shows on TV and they'd be like, making cars and bikes and they'd have these glasses. And I thought, well, if you're making billet aluminium sort of stuff, which is my speciality, why don't you make your own pair of glasses? So I just had this brainstorming vision. I was in bed. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, probably before I hit Delta. I go, glasses that I use camera lenses. So I pulled my camera lens out and over the next week I made my first pair of glasses. with interchangeable screw-in camera lenses. Then I got crazy, spent $1,000. I had wide-angle lenses, and I had ones that go from clear to dark, and kept progressing. And everyone goes, I want them. And I don't want to make them anymore. So I spent 7 years developing a product which is now available for sale for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I call them DJCs. My name's David John Cryer, so they're called DJCs. And the actual, the name itself looks like an eye, a nose.
Oh, yeah,
an
yeah.
eye.
Yep.
So then I didn't want to machine because machining is quite difficult, but with all the process, I didn't want to use China. It's too expensive locally, so I had to learn to make them at home. So I bought a CNC router. I had to learn Mastercam. I already knew how to draw, so I could design. Then I learned how to Mastercam to do my post programs. Then I had to learn the CNC router with this Mac 3. I haven't got the money to buy a big router, so I just used a Chinese router. All these processes, and learn how to anodize, and there was so many different designs as well. I just had to settle on design. So I basically made this. Here I brought a few along called DJCs, and if you want like a reading glass, I've got a few pairs here. So I've got these interchangeable lenses, all made from billets aluminium.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the lenses out of it. You can pull the lenses out of it. You can put different fronts on. You put different fronts on.
Mm-hmm.
There's little magnets on the front there, clearing. And basically they're reading glasses, sunglasses, and I think I might get killed because you're not meant to have reading glass and sunglass, so I do both. So these are my reading glasses here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't want to use the reading glasses, I take them off and I put the sunglasses on.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to put the sunglasses and the reading glasses on, I put both on. If I want to put them all on there, I put one. And I've got little magnets I can stick on the side, and I made my own little satchels and did all the design work myself.
Yeah.
So 7 years in the making, and they're finally available.
Yeah.
And, so if anyone's interested, they probably can contact. I've got a few different ways, but if you look at eyewear DJC on Facebook, it's there. I'm setting up a website now, and but basically, they're available now, and I've worked out a process, but they take it, if someone puts an order in, take about a month to make. They're all custom made. I can make custom different ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
But and they're quite reasonable in price too.
Yeah.
I've just introductory price $420. That's Australian.
Yep.
And I can post worldwide if I need to.
Yep.
But they go up from there because they take many hours for me to make.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be feasible if I got someone else to do it. But I looked at most art pieces. If someone paints a picture, it's about $500.
Mm-hmm.
So I've made it around. It was $500. I've bought $420.
Yeah.
I think it's hard because I'm not really into money, but I'm actually giving someone a gift, and people have got them, are really happy, because you can see it on people's faces. And when you see someone else wearing a pair of DJCs, DJCs, and then you can swap parts as well. And it's a bit of a community I'm building. Probably about 30 pairs out there. People are starting to recognise them.
Yeah,
but they do take me a while to make up, and I don't know if it's going to be feasible as a business or not. But if I can make these from home and live my life that I do, it'll give me a good life and positive energy. And also I'm creating something really hard, a lot of hard work, and as a gift, and I can do it as a bartering system as well. Yeah. So there's a DJC story.
Yep. Cool.
I hate sounding like a salesman too. So
no,
I'm a creator. I'm an artist.
They're really cool. They're a really beautifully designed product. They're an expression of art, and they like there's nothing like them.
If I've made something in like a wallet and it's just in your pocket, it's different. Once these start getting out and showing people's faces, that's good advertising space.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also got this idea of life's a movie, and instead of pixels, we got cells. Instead of high definition, we got high definition. I used to crack those jokes. So I used to say, so life's a movie. I've got a little book on life's a movie, and this fits in with that. Because I do things and they're meant for a higher purpose. I don't know. So this is maybe a way I've done it. I didn't want to do it. It's a lot of work. Does anyone knows machining? If you really went to a machine shop and asked to machine those out, they probably wouldn't want to do it. And if they did, it'd probably cost you a couple of $1,000. So there's a lot of different processes to make it happen.
Yeah,
I make them from chunks of aluminium. I don't stamp them out or anything. I machine them out. So a machinist will understand. There's a lot of work in that.
Yep.
And aluminium's my thing from my car days when I had my own roll cages and shifters, and so I've always it's sort of linked to my cars and in a brushed alloy handmade look.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
It was fun.
Made this easy for my first time.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad you're doing this.
Yeah.
And getting to a chance, because the Blazers and Burns have got some really, really talented people that are doing it for the right reasons.
There's some crew in there.
Yeah, and if you can give them a chance to speak, then that's a good thing.
Yep. Get the word out. Get the word out. Sweet. Thanks, man. Thanks for getting the word out.
All right. Well, do we do the rub the hands and clap it for goodbye?
We can just sign out.
Okay.
Ciao.
Ciao. See you later.